back, everybody. Look, we're going to talk about some Star Wars bullcrap. We're going to talk about pretty much everything under the sun in terms of freaking fandom because I'm getting pissed. All right? Like, I'm getting real pissed off with all the Kathleen Kennedy is out and Star Wars is back and like this new era, blah, 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 blah. All this freaking bullcrap because Star Wars is not back. Okay? Kathleen Kennedy, it was just a small freaking issue that she created. She created a much bigger issue than what everybody's giving her credit for because she ruined it for years to come. Okay? And Dave Filoni is a freaking hack. All right? Like, his name is Dave Baloney because that's all he is, dude. He's full of baloney, dude. He's a freaking moron. Like, Kathleen Kennedy, she was handpicked by George Lucas. Okay? And then Dave Filoni was handpicked by Kathleen Kennedy. And he's in charge with some other freaking chick who, to give her credit, I have no idea what she's about, but just because she's a chick and connected to Kathleen Kennedy, I guarantee it's going to be more bullcrap. And if you think about it just logically, let's say you freaking love Dave Filoni, which is insane. You love Dave Filoni. Now his time is separated because he is what's it called? Co-president, like Dave Filoni's co-president with some other chick. That means not just Star Wars. He has to be in charge of Willow, of like all the other crappy movies, Indiana Jones, everything under the sun that Lucasfilm has, which Lucasfilm freaking sucks. Everything's dead that Lucasfilm ever had any play in, all right? So just that alone, he can't dedicate himself to Star Wars. So that way, he actually has to assign people Star Wars that probably love it less than he does, which he doesn't even care about George Lucas' Star Wars. He doesn't care about real Star Wars. Like Ahsoka 2 was approved by Dave Filoni. The Mandalorian show is approved by Dave Filoni. He was already acting head of Star Wars before Kathleen Kennedy was out, and it's been years. The slop that we've been getting from Star Wars, from Lucasfilm Star Wars, from Disney Star Wars, has been approved and looked over through Dave Filoni. He's like the big one to blame after Rise of Skywalker, at least. Everything after Rise of Skywalker, Ahsoka, The Acolyte, guarantee you he had a hand to play in it. Like, maybe not The Acolyte, I'll give him that. The Acolyte seems like, I can't even blame Kathleen Kennedy. She hired the damn lady, but she probably didn't have a big creative part to play in on that. I don't know. But Dave Filoni, dude, like, there's no way he's ever going to be successful when it comes to all this. Like, it's insane that you think he will be successful with Star Wars. And remember, Star Wars, it needs to have not only the biggest course correction ever, it needs to have, like, such a turnaround that we, after like 5 to 10 shows / movies are like perfection, that's when we can have that turnaround. Other than that, yeah, there's no chance. There's no shot. Okay? Not only that, there needs to be an apology to the fans. They need to get rid of all of Disney Star Wars. Everything we've had ever since 2014. Because the Kenobi book came out in 2013. Everything at 2014 and on like that all needs to be erased. I don't care if you like The Mandalorian. I don't care if there's elements. I don't care if you like Rogue One. All those have their own issues, but all of it isn't worth trading for what we had, the EU. Like, if things were just slightly under the EU, that would have been fine, and I think we would be okay with new stories, even though the EU is already freaking perfect. But you're telling me that you're okay having this slop as long as we get better Star Wars, but this is still the end result? Rey being Rey Skywalker is the end result, and you're cool with that? Like, The Mandalorian having freaking whatever, like Jack Black and Lizzo, which is Jabba the Hutt's daughter apparently because she looks like it. Like, you're cool with that. And you're also cool with the Book of Boba Fett show, Boba Fett not being Boba Fett at all, and then freaking Power Ranger mopeds / scooters on Tatooine. What the freak are we doing, man? Like, stop saying like everything's over, everything's good now because Kathleen Kennedy is out. Think about how business is supposed to work. Kathleen Kennedy is the president. Therefore, if she has one vision, she needs to hire people to execute that vision. And she hired everybody that has Lucasfilm has the same blueprint for every movie and show. Make it super gay, make it freaking I want to use words that I can't use on YouTube or Kick, but it has all this bull crap, all this political ideology, all this garbage that has nothing to do with Star Wars, and therefore we're not gonna it's all the same. Therefore, the freaking company is infected with people who don't care, who care about ideology, do not care about the money, do not care about the fans. So you can't just get rid of Kathleen Kennedy. Look at one of the only businesses that came out after somebody bought it was Elon Musk on Twitter. What did he do? He got rid of 80% of employees. Did we hear that from Lucasfilm? Did we hear that from Disney saying that they are firing 80% of the freaking staff at Lucasfilm? No, we didn't. Same even with Marvel trying to course correct. They are trying to course correct, but it's not too late for them. But there's so much crap that they got to erase that it's not going to. It's going to be a long time if they are on the right direction. But there's too many idiots there. So Lucasfilm is completely infected. You have to get rid of at the very least, half the staff. Guarantee you. That's what the very least you got to do is get rid of half. There is no way just Dave Filoni being in charge. And he hasn't even made a big move. He's been in charge. That's the problem. He's already been in charge. There's no way in hell that this is the change that freaking Star Wars, Indiana Jones, all of Lucasfilm needed. This is not it. They needed somebody that was completely... And again, George Lucas handpicked Kathleen Kennedy. Whether you think she was an usurper or she was just this political person, she has huge connections, man. Her husband's one of them. Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, J.J. Abrams. She has massive connections that nobody wants to F around with her. And she didn't just give it up. She retired. She's freaking old, dude. You're telling me some 70-something-year-old hag is going to just leave because it's time to move on? No, she's retiring. She effed around. She destroyed freaking all of Lucasfilm, and now she's gone. She completed her mission. She won. All of us freaking losers that are thinking, oh, now it's gonna be... Say, man, Dave Filoni is another freaking douche. He's probably just as bad as Kathleen Kennedy. At this point, hell yeah. Look at his freaking sissy-like interviews, man. Look at the bullcrap he talks about. Look at everything he's approved. You're telling me that Ahsoka and freaking Mandalorian and whatever else we freaking got, which I can't even think of because it pisses me off so much, all those Star Wars bullcrap that he was involved in, you're thinking that was not him being involved? You think that was him doing a good job? F you, man. Don't be freaking retarded. It's ridiculous that we're getting so many people. And again, I haven't watched every freaking video about George or Kathleen Kennedy leaving. I haven't watched every... we are going to react to some stuff today during this live stream. And feel free, if this turns into a video, go to the live stream, check it out. But I'm just freaking livid over how many people are just Star Wars is back. It's been saved. I was sent so many videos of the Phantom Menace celebration, and it's the end of the Dark Age. No, this is just the beginning. We got Morgoth, now we're on to Sauron. Freaking, if you think about Star Wars, I put it here. I freaking wrote this to Derpy, and shout out to Derpy. He sent me that one of those videos, and I said this: Chancellor Valorum, corrupt and incompetent, enjoyed the smell of his own farts equals Kathleen Kennedy. Palpatine, scheming, maniacal, working in the dark, creating facade to distract from his true intentions. Whilst everyone liked him, he created the perfect storm to implement Order 66 and destroy democracy to form the Empire. Equals Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni will make Star Wars much worse than it already is, and I mourn those who fall for the deceit of this false prophet. Don't be fooled. The arbiter. We have traded one enemy for another. That's what happened. We traded one enemy for another. This is freaking ridiculous. Dave Filoni is an idiot. Star Wars is freaking dead. I wish it was alive. I wish we were getting somebody we could trust. This is not freaking Peter Jackson coming in to save it. This is not George Lucas coming in to save it. This is the guy that gave us some of the crappiest episodes of the Clone Wars. Yes, he gave us some good stuff from the Clone Wars. But he gave us also, he's obsessed with Ahsoka. He can't let her go. She's supposed to die in Order 66 or by the hands of Vader. That's it. She's not supposed to live past that. He's the one that gave us the world between worlds. He gave us time traveling in Star Wars. That is freaking retarded. Okay? So, if there's anybody to blame for the downfall of Star Wars, it is Kathleen Kennedy. But she had her minions. She had her people around her that she kept around, and they didn't speak up. Fine, lose your job, man. Get another one. Go roofing. You went from doing Avatar Last Airbender to Clone Wars. Great. But you compromise your integrity. Like, sometimes sticking around a company just because it has good money and that, like, you love this thing, but you can't save it, and therefore you have to attach your name to things that are disgusting and a complete molestation of what came before and a disrespect to the current creator who is still alive. Yeah, you don't have integrity, brother. F that guy. Okay, let's freaking react to some videos. I love Star Wars Theory. I love those guys. I watch Neurotic, Star Wars Theory, and some of the people that send me some of this bullcrap. But damn, like, we'll see if it's good. Yo, what up, man? What's YH? Yeah, died. This is just them trying to replace a puppet with another puppet. They need to move on and give us a continuation, at least new lore, because it's tiring seeing rehash. Well, it's not just about that. They need to, like, we had the EU. If you haven't read the EU, man, brother, like, you gotta get into that. Like, and remember, George Lucas had the foresight to attach video games to the canon. All right, like, he already attached that stuff, like the Old Republic, the Force Unleashed, Commando, the Commando movies, the Obi-Wan training, like, all those games were already connected. They were already part of the lore, the canon. And we need to go back to freaking everything. Like I said, everything before 2014. That's where we need to start. Like, if you haven't read the Legends book, because they couldn't cancel it because the Kenobi book was already coming out. But if you read the Kenobi book, that came out in 2013 after the purchase of Lucasfilm. They're like, oh, let's just put it out there as Legends. And then they gave us the crappy, man, that Obi-Wan show. I can't believe I forgot that garbage show, man. That's a ridiculous show. We need freaking real Star Wars back again. I am sick and tired of, like, oh, they need a course correct. No, they need to erase it. It's not about course correcting at this point. Like, ever since Force Awakens, like, that was the biggest destruction of Star Wars. More than The Rise of Skywalker, more than The Last Jedi. It was The Force Awakens. And if you don't believe me, try rewatching that. Okay? Like, just the fact, like, go from Return of the Jedi. We had Return of the Jedi, right? There's a scene that explains the entire relationship of Leia and Solo, how they would never, for any reason, separate from one another. Unless, like, one of them went crazy and tried to kill one. But the scene where they're explaining the suicide mission, and Han Solo is like, Leia was like, oh, man, I wonder who's the crazy guy they chose to do this mission. And he's like, yeah, I wonder why. And then they said, all right, Solo, you ready for... Yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm all ready. Like, I just need a few people with my crew. Leia was the first one that said, count me in. She went with him to a suicide, the craziest mission that she even commented on. This is crazy. Who's the fool to do this? And she's like, all right, I'll do it. It's a suicide mission, but I will die with you. Like, and then you're telling me because they have a rebellious teenager, that's all it took for them to get divorced, her become a career woman, and him to be a freaking old loser still doing the things he did when he was like. And why would he begin bounty hunting again? He already became a commendable person. He moved on from that kind of life. It's insane. Okay, Force Unleashed needs to be canon, as in the characters, but how many times do they need to go back and retell the story? Like the Force Unleashed, Force Awakens was horrible. They incorporated wokeness into it. Even the ending was terrible. Yeah, and like I freaking hate wokeness. It wasn't like just that. It was the problem that there was no foundation for any character. Like the dialogue itself had nothing to do with Star Wars. Like the whole like you got a boyfriend. Like it was funny when I watched it. I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. But then it took me out of the movie. I was like, wait a minute, that's not Star Wars. Like saying like lover or something, that would be more Star Wars. But like a boyfriend, that like there's specific dialogue when it comes to each and every property. You see it in Lord of the Rings, you see it in Game of Thrones, you see it in Star Wars, you see it in Dragon Ball Z. There is dialogue that's specific to that universe. And then Rey fights the guy who was trained by Luke Skywalker, destroyed all of Luke Skywalker's Padawans, and was also trained by some dude named Snoke, who apparently is more powerful than even Palpatine. And then we come find out was pretty much a clone of Palpatine, sort of. He was trained by that guy, some of the greatest Force users in history. And then she never even touched a lightsaber, and was able to beat him with zero training. Zero training, dude. That is freaking insane. He would have ruined her. Kathleen Kennedy, who let her do this much, who let her do this? Unfortunately, man, like she was very good politically, and she promised George a lot of things. Like if you see the videos with her and George when he's like, I'm sending over my treasure trove of all these movies, all these like great stories. I got over 100 outlines for movies, over 100 movies we should have gotten. And the EU, she's like, yeah, there's such a rich history, blah, blah, blah. And then immediately she makes all these weird freaking like interview videos like, oh, Star Wars is not like Harry Potter where you got like 8 books, like 8,000 pages to go off of. Like we literally got 50,000 years of lore through Star Wars because of George Lucas. Video games, novels, books, all of it. Comics, we have it. We even got art, dude. And she was just like, whatever. So, yeah, she was an usurper. That's what she was. George Lucas is partly to blame. He is. He didn't think it was going to be like that. But it's kind of like when I sold the Lego store, and made that deal. Like, unfortunately, 4 people lost their jobs. Not including me. 4 other people lost their jobs. So I'm partly to blame. Just like Kathleen Kennedy, George Lucas is partly to blame for putting Kathleen Kennedy in charge. But also, it's Bob Iger too. He's the big one. Like, all he does is buy and then was like, I'm going to put all this bull crap. Love George Lucas. Gave us some of the greatest movies of all time. But he also put in the freaking devil of cinema when it comes to Star Wars. That's who he is. I told you what. Oh, yeah, the Lego thing, yeah. But, dudes, like, I love George. I freaking love Star Wars. Force Unleashed. If you don't remember, they were already doing the third Force Unleashed game, and yeah, Force Unleashed has their issues, but yeah, it should be canon. Should be canon. It is great. It's but they can't do it because of Rebels. So if you see Rebels, the way they made the rebellion was Sabine Wren, she just spraying like freaking fruity artwork, and like that's what started the rebellion. That's how they got the rebellion symbol. And then Force Unleashed is because of Starkiller off the first movie, man. And I guess the third one we were gonna find out that he wasn't completely cloned. That was like him itself. Now they would have to change some things because, like, you have to change some things because of what Lucasfilm did. Like, They made lightsabers obsolete. People are getting stabbed left and right from a lightsaber, and nobody's dying. And only Qui-Gon died. Um, so when Darth Vader stabs Starkiller, he has to kind of do it in a way where like he gets him on the side and Starkiller dodges, and then like throws him out the window. That kind of stuff needs to be changed, just because you can't attach things to this bullcrap that Disney created. Yeah, they have to cater to the. No, they don't. They don't have to cater to the young generation. Like, let me go through your messages and then let me see if I can answer it. Okay, that's the problem. The lore we know may not interest them. The young generation, it definitely would. The guy who's Starkiller / voice actor, Sam Witwer, he knows this stuff, so I don't know why they don't let him be in charge. He even spoke about this stuff in an interview. Okay. Just because somebody knows this stuff doesn't mean they're creative enough to progress this stuff. Like, he is probably the guy that respects it the most. But, like, the EU was already approved by George. Anybody who really is like, I'm going to respect George, I'm going to respect the lore, is going to bring the EU back. That's who they need to have in charge. Okay? We're going to adapt, like, the Bane trilogy. You know, the Path to Destruction, all that, the Rule of Two. They're going to adapt that. Maybe not do 7, 8, and 9 right off the bat, but they'll start bringing things in that already erased 7, 8, and 9. You know, like do something in the era that High Republic Acolyte thing was in. Like, if they do this, like, here's how you erase the Disney trilogy, right? You make a movie or a miniseries about the kids of Han and Leia, where there is no Ben Solo because Ben Skywalker was the son of Luke Skywalker, and the reason they named him Ben was because of Ben Kenobi. And they had Jaden Solo, and I forgot his sister's name, the twin, and then Anakin Solo. So then all they have to do is a small story with 3 kids. Already we know that the Disney trilogy he doesn't have siblings. And then have a small story of Mara Jade marrying Luke. Boom. You're not even doing 7, 8, and 9. You're just erasing them by making these movies or shows. And then to erase everything, you're going to have to adapt the Kenobi novel. And before that, as well, during the High Republic Acolyte bullcrap, you're going to have to make some series where Master Sifo-Dyas is involved, or Darth Plagueis and Palpatine. You know, he's training Darth Maul, and then you're going to have to show some things, how Ki-Adi-Mundi isn't alive, things like that, so that there's no confusion, and the real fans, because here's the thing, it's just like comics. Real fans bring in, word of mouth brings in the new people. And the young generation is influenced by the old generation. Like, my kids are not, I have 3 kids, they're not watching anything Disney Star Wars. They love the Star Wars that, like, they prefer watching, my 5-year-old prefers watching Return of the Jedi over Phantom Menace. Because he really likes Luke and Darth Vader. But he really loves the Phantom Menace too. He laughs his head off with Jar Jar Binks. Okay? Like, I as a dad and my wife as a mother, we dictate what they watch, what they get into. He's not watching the freaking garbage shows that exist today. He's watching like Dragon Ball Z. He's watching Superman the Animated Series. He's watching some of the Clone Wars. He's watching Batman the Animated Series. Batman Begins. Like Christopher Reeve Superman. I'm not showing him James Gunn freaking douchey Superman, dude. Like, this is freaking his this is what is going to create the next generation, is their parents. If you got crappy generation, they had crappy parents because those parents weren't solidifying integrity and keeping an eye on them and growing them. Like, this is not happening, man. So my kids are gonna freaking read the EU. They're not gonna read all the bull crap that Disney's created. There is no catering to the young audience, because I've said this if you look statistically, um, mothers, not women, but mothers specifically, dictate the free market. Okay, they dictate the toy market. They dictate like sales overall, because what does a mother do? They keep track of the calendar. They know everybody's birthday. They know the events coming up, and when they go shopping, they go for convenience. When I owned the Lego store, we have, like, at least me, I would study the statistics of the Lego store with the highest sales. The Lego store with the highest sales, I forgot where it is, but it made $50 million in a year. The average Target sold more Lego than the highest Lego store. Why? Because what would mothers do? They would shop, grocery shop. They would shop for like clothing, electronics, and then Lego's right there. Toys are right there. They're like, oh yeah, freaking little Johnny's birthday's coming up. Let me grab something. Oh, my kid likes Minecraft. Let me grab that. Like, they might not even get the right thing, but they are purchasing those things. They are buying it, and then the kid's gonna fall in love with it. Like for instance, one of my aunts on Christmas, she knows me and my son like Superman. What did she do? She went to the supermarket, or to some store, and bought the James Gunn Superman shirt. I can't blame her. She's not a freaking nerd. She's not like me, because what she sees, Superman is Superman. That's it. Like, doesn't matter if the costume is different. She sees that it says Superman, and therefore it's Superman. You know, you see a Power Ranger, the Red Ranger. If I say the Red Ranger, it's the Ranger that comes to your mind. You don't know which era is the Red Ranger that I'm talking about, because it's just the Red Ranger. It's that freaking simple. Like, they determine the market. And that's why, like, mothers who are a little more involved understand what's going on in the media. Yeah, they're going to get the right things. But then when the kids grow a little bit older, or have older siblings or older cousins, they're going to tell them, this is exactly what I want. You know, like, taking your kid to like a niche store, like a old school toy store, or like the store I had, a Lego store that's very niche. They're going to point out exactly which specific one they wanted. Like, for instance, this mother came in to the Lego store, and she's like, I would like a Stormtrooper. All right, from which movie? The third one. I'm like, do you mean Return of the Jedi or Revenge of the Sith? And she's like, I don't really know. It's like, okay, well, you know, the prequels, they have two phases. They got phase 1, which usually has the shark fin on top, and then they got phase 2. But then there's different factions. There's the 501st, there's the 212, there's your regular white clone troopers, and then the stormtroopers are just your regular stormtroopers, because we didn't have the Disney bullcrap. And then we have to point out, this is a commander, this is a captain, this yellow pauldron means this, the orange one means that. And then they were in shock that they didn't know. They watched the movies with their kids, but they thought they were all the same. So therefore, they had to ask the dad or their other sibling, what would little Johnny want specifically, from which movie? The second movie. Okay. But the one, is it the pilot? Yeah, he wants it for the gunship. Okay, you want the phase 1 pilot. That's $25. Cool, drop it. Then why is this one $5 and this one $25? Well, because this one is your regular freaking clone trooper that just gets killed. This is a pilot. You see the designs, the yellow and the freaking symbol on top, how the shape is different, how the armor is slightly different. Yeah, man, freaking A. The Rise of Skywalker needs a remake along with The Last Jedi, but instead of Rian Johnson, somebody else does it. Oh, Return of the Sith was amazing. Okay, what the freak? Okay. All right, look. Rian Johnson deserves the criticism, but I'll tell you this. He is a good director if he has the right people coaching him. If you watch the Breaking Bad show, some of the best episodes was directed by Rian Johnson. You got to give him his flowers when they're due. He should not have directed Star Wars. Look, Zack Snyder, The Watchmen, phenomenal movie. 300, phenomenal movie. When he's given free reign to do whatever the hell he wants, he F's it. Justice League, 4 hours of garbage. Okay? Man of Steel, garbage. Batman vs. Superman, garbage. Wonder Woman, garbage. all trash, right? But when somebody is involved next to him, be like, hey, ring it back. That's a problem. Like, look at George Lucas. He created Star Wars, but if you look at the documentary of Return of the Jedi, they were telling him, ring it freaking back, dude. Bring it back. We're not going to have Luke don the helmet of Darth Vader. That's crazy. Like, George Lucas had amazing ideas, but when you have amazing ideas, you also get crappy ideas. It's just a normal thing. Like, you can't think that one person is gonna like, one of the only people to ever exist that had great storytelling, overall great ideas, because he just cared about the world. He didn't care about the bottom line. He had a full vision, was Tolkien. And even then, Christopher Tolkien, his son, expounded on his world and made it even better. Okay? Revenge of the Sith, and he complained how slow the story is and he didn't get it. He said, "What's Order 66?" And I had to slap his head. I don't know what else to explain to him. Okay, this is how you explain to him. You tell him, stop jacking off. Stop watching TikTok. Stop scrolling through your phone. Wean off your phone for a week. Don't watch YouTube for a week. And then rewire your brain so you're not thinking how slow or fast something's supposed to be. Then have him watch Revenge of the Sith. Sit with him. And that's it. He'll get Order 66 when his mind is slow enough to not be so retarded. Okay? I bet your friend is under 25. Am I close? Am I close? Dude, I should have got another Coke. Yeah. So that's probably why he didn't freaking get it. Tell your friend he's a moron. Honestly, reading it comic book style first might be better. Man, no, he's 32. Oh, then he's some dumb bastard. That's what he is, man. If he's never... Okay, look. Go through the regular order of which they launched. New Hope. Because here's the thing. When you're invested of how Vader became what Vader is, like, all the prequels are a little more palatable. Okay? There's problems in storytelling in all three movies. Objectively, they're not well-written movies. Star Wars-wise, they are great Star Wars. They're bad movies. That's what it is. Okay? So, have him watch New Hope. Tell him to get into it. Like, hey, yo, watch New Hope with me. Then we're going to watch Empire. And then Return of the Jedi. Great. Make a day of it. Get some pizza, some Little C's. All right? I like Little Caesars. Get whatever pizza you want. Domino's is great, too. I just like Little C's because, I don't know. They've been there for you, Get some Little C's. Get some Coke. Watch the damn movie. And just be in it. Just be in it, fool. And then when he gets to Revenge of the Sith, when he gets to, the end result, then he'll kind of have a more appreciation because he'll be very focused. Like Revenge of the Sith, if you just jump in the story, you don't really know the connection of Obi-Wan and Anakin, even though they do a pretty decent part of, getting them connected right off the bat. You don't really know. But, dude... let's get into some of the stuff that we're going to react to some of these bastards talking about, and some of them might be some good bastards, talking about the Kathleen Kennedy exodus. And like I said, Kathleen Kennedy is out because she retired. That old hag, that freaking cow, left because she's too old to do anything else. Okay? What do you call the form of Vader when he embodies the dark side and kills Palpatine? You call him Anakin. That's Anakin. He ceased to become Vader and became Anakin again. All right? It's freaking Anakin. Here's... I've always thought about... She did the dude. She was the damage. There was no control. There was just damage. The freak you talking about? Okay, let me. This is how I probably would have written a story. So you remember when you see in what do you mean? What do I mean? Kathleen Kennedy was the damage. She did damage control. You said she. Maybe I don't know what you mean. Okay. But anyways, this is how I would have given the first glimpse of Vader getting back to Anakin. Like, we kind of saw it in actually The Force Unleashed. When he saw Starkiller, like something grabbed Vader. We're like, oh shoot, I should save him. And break his life support suit. And he looked red with glowing eyes. Yeah. So what? And wielded 2 black or red sabers. Is this from the original EU or the Disney EU? Like look, Vader, just like Count Dooku when he was Darth Tyrannus, he could control the Sith eyes. So that version of is called Anakin. Yeah. Like that, George Lucas laid that out. He was like, Anakin brought balance to the Force. Luke Skywalker, when he was fighting Palpatine or Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi, when he threatened to come after his sister, Luke tapped into the dark side. He attacked with anger, and that's why he lost to Vader. That's how he was able to beat Vader, through that anger. He just went hard, man. And then he kind of snapped out of it, of what he was about to do. That's why he looks at his hand, because the reason he had the glove wasn't just, it was symbolic, like the dark side and the light. Then he threw his lightsaber and said, no, now I am a Jedi, because he finished his mission. He was tempted. And then during that temptation, he overcame the dark side and grasped into the light. And then Palpatine was freaking wrecking his crap, because unfortunately at that point, Luke Skywalker was not more powerful than Palpatine. The light is stronger, but the light brought back Anakin to the light. The dark side is also symbolic that Anakin is gone. That's why they get a different name. So they are encumbered by the darkness. So they seem dead. So if you think of Anakin as my fist, and then there's just darkness, you can't see my fist. And then coming back through the light, he's coming up, and then the darkness is dispelled. That's how you become from light to dark and dark to light. And so he now became Anakin, grabbed freaking Darth Sidious and threw him over. Okay? Saving Luke Skywalker, getting rid of darkness in the universe, and brought balance to the Force. Okay? And then we get the EU. So Anakin if this is from Darth Vader 2017 Fortress Failure Volume comic. Yeah, I didn't read the bullcrap that Disney created. Remember, Disney bought Lucasfilm 2012. In 2012, they also announced the death of the EU. It's no longer canon. They're going to become legends. Boom. No longer EU. Okay? Then 2015, the Mary Sue Awakens came out. Okay? So, nothing. When I talk about Star Wars, and I talk about things that I like and lore, all that bullcrap from 2012 doesn't exist. My man moves on. It don't exist because it's gay. I don't do that gay stuff, man. Yeah, dude, that was the first thing they announced. The EU, kaput. Everything after 2013, because the Kenobi novel that George Lucas approved, released. Read the Kenobi novel, dude. The book. It's phenomenal. Small story. Really, it's how Obi-Wan connects the Force to communicate with Qui-Gon, realizing that, I believe that he realized that Vader is Anakin. And then in the cave, he's like, I can't, like he kind of starts connecting with Qui-Gon, and he's looking after Luke and kind of helping with the Tusken Raiders, and there's a Tusken Raider that's Force sensitive. Super cool stuff. Super cool stuff. Everything after, garbage. Read the Timothy Zahn trilogy. If you want to read a little, like right after Return of the Jedi, basically. Timothy Zahn trilogy. The Yuuzhan Vaughn, I believe it's 19 books. It's how Chewbacca died, saving, I believe it was Anakin Solo. He gets freaking incinerated. You know, he throws Anakin to the Falcon, I believe, and then just explodes. And it's super sad. Super sad. And Leia and Han Solo go on missions together. And the Yuuzhan Vaughn is from a different galaxy, and therefore they don't have the Force. So it's really hard to use the Force against them. And Luke notices that. And they torture people, dude. It is freaking crazy. No, dude, George Lucas had no say. There are multiple interviews. George Lucas called Disney white slavers in 2014. He said that once he sold it, it was like a breakup. It was like a breakup with his girlfriend. You don't go over to your girlfriend's house, ex-girlfriend's house, to see how they're doing, what they're up to. You don't do that. You just completely separate. And they're like, when you dive deep, there are other interviews like he did with like a junior high class, which was like video. And he said that like what Disney did, that's theirs. 1 through 6 is mine. And the Clone Wars, like season 7, was half good, half bad. I would say like 30% good. The rest was garbage, and in terms of lore, garbage. Right? Even the Ahsoka and Darth Maul fight, that was a stupidly insane fight. There's no way Ahsoka would ever beat Darth Maul. That's insane. I wouldn't say it was China that killed the franchise. I'll say it's more Disney. China doesn't have a say. Like, the Star Wars movies still did great before Disney in China. Like, here's the thing. China will promote stuff. Okay? They will. But as you can see, Disney is not stupid. Disney, when they promote Black Panther, they put the helmet on. What do you mean? Okay. You said, yeah, Disney and China killed the franchise? If it wasn't what happened, I meant Darth Maul. What? Don't know what you mean. Write out a little longer because I have no idea what you're trying to say. But, like, Disney knows how to market. They know how to market. Lucasfilm knew how to market. And if you stick to the story, 1 through 6, regardless of how bad 1 through 6 is, the fight scene, Darth Maul losing against Ahsoka would never happen. Like, he even beat Obi-Wan Kenobi in Mandalore. And you're telling me Ahsoka, who's been cut off from the Force for like a year and hasn't really fought, hasn't trained, she could also feel Anakin turning to the dark side, which was insane. The only people that would be able to feel it is Padme and Yoda. That's it. Even Mace Windu, who in lore from episode 1 to episode 2 was the head of the Jedi Council, of the Jedi Order. He was the head. He stepped down because he felt at fault that the Clone Wars happened because he didn't stop Dooku. Like, he fell at fault. Okay? So, yeah, like that fight scene, it was very well choreographed, but him losing that way, him freaking out, being a whole pussy, wouldn't freaking happen, dude. And we never even got like an explanation of how he left Darth Sidious, I don't think he would have cried for help to Ahsoka to stop Anakin. Like, it's so retarded. It's so stupid. It makes zero sense. Like, that's just not, like, Darth Sidious is very different, and so is Maul. Like, this wouldn't be freaking happening, dude. Good freaking Lord. It just pisses me off. One second here. Boom. Just fixing the background a little bit. Okay. Let's get into our reactions. Okay. This one is from Star Wars Theory. It's finally over. I want to see what he has to say. Let's get to it. Oh, where's the
Make sure that they still continue. The main thing is to protect these characters. Make sure that they still continue to live in the way that you created them. We don't have source material. We don't have 800-page books that we're adapting.
And obviously we have hundreds of books and comics and everything you could possibly imagine.
We don't even really have comic books. We have a mythology.
I have story treatments of 7, 8, and 9 and a bunch of other movies. And
George Lucas never wrote a script for 7, 8, or 9. And the ideas that I think you're referencing are ideas that he had for other possible movies.
and I had the story treatments or outlines, and we were working on scripts. Since I didn't use my stories, I have no idea what they're doing.
Oh boy, we have finally arrived after all the many years. Star Wars doesn't have any source material. All of the bad decisions. I mean, we're going back to the signing of Lucasfilm. Originally when George signed Lucasfilm off to Disney, to Bob Iger, he appointed Kathy as the president of Lucasfilm pretty much like days before he went to sign. And Bob was thrown off by it. And he writes this in his book. He was like, okay. And George appointed Kathy right before he signed as the president of Lucasfilm because he trusted her to take care of his characters and his story. And while I wish Kathy the best on her next adventure, as a human being, as a beloved fan of Star Wars and how it's changed my life far beyond this channel. Since I was a wee lad, there was no one better in history than Kathleen Kennedy to have strayed this brand further from what George would have wanted.
Okay. I thought he was gonna freak out a bit. Moves on to make Maul so sloppy against Ahsoka. How is he going to let a child kick him through a window or toss him judo style? Yeah. And by the way, I do jiu-jitsu and dabble in judo. It's very hard. Maul, who was trained since childhood, might be the most feared person to the galaxy, Sidious, fueled by rage. It is not only going to be matched by an arrogant child, but is going to lose. Yeah. Maul has way more skill. One of the things he lost to Obi-Wan was just by pure arrogance. He was just toying with Obi-Wan. And I hated it too. Yeah, and Kathy, we trust, man. Kathy, number one.
What began as
Good
a gutsy inspiration.
Always with the ads, man. I need ad blocker, dude. This is freaking ad blocker, dude.
The Disney Lin-Wen Brennan. Kennedy has been getting them ready for a couple of years as she plotted a return to her first love, producing. The expansion also included 5 animated series, the Disneyland and Disney World attractions, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and the evolution of Lucasfilm Games, the downgrade of LucasArts, which had this many games compared to this many games. Kennedy has been discussing the succession plan for 2 years with Disney's Bob Iger.
Remember, the Jedi Fallen Order was a rehash of a game they were developing for Darth Maul game. Remember that.
Alan Bergman. Here she explains to Deadline why now and what's ahead for her. 2 years ago, I went to Bob and Alan to figure out what the transition plan would be, and I made the recommendation that it be Dave Filoni and Lin-Wen Brennan. Dave is the perfect person to transition, but he hadn't made a movie, and I worked very closely with him beginning with Rogue One to get him a feel of how live action works. His background is animation, as he worked with George on Clone Wars. He's very talented and immersed in Star Wars. He and Pablo Hidalgo are like the walking encyclopedias inside the company. Which, mind you, Pablo, before Kathleen was hired, did not have his position. Once she got hired, she just promoted the heck out of him.
By the way, Pablo Hidalgo not only made fun of Star Wars theory, but he was the lore master. These were guys in Lucasfilm that then effed around with it. Blockers aren't working at the minute. Ad, yeah. Not sure what YouTube or Google did. I don't know what they did, man. No, and I get ads during freaking live streams. It's insane. So slow down. It was originally an idea for... Whoa, slow. Yeah, it was originally an idea... So before... When LucasArts were developing multiple games right before. George Lucas was also developing... a Underworld series that I forgot what it's called, but about the underworld in Coruscant, like the criminal underworld. And he already had like kind of a somewhat of a ad or trailer put together, but he was like casting and stuff. Like, yeah, so they were developing a Darth Maul video game, and they kind of took the mechanics and bases of that and turned it into the Jedi Fallen Order game. So yeah, dude, I used to freaking love Star Wars, and I dive deep into every freaking thing about Star Wars. So yeah, dude, yeah, it was a rehashed game essentially. They had ideas but poor backing. Like, they didn't even have poor backing. George Lucas, the way he did things, he would film and then bring it to a company and be like, I have this ready. Do you want to use it or not? Do you want to produce this or not? Like, put it out. That's how he did things, because he didn't want anybody touching his work. He didn't want anybody messing with the lore. Let's get back to the video.
Always have the answer when you ask, hey, can I do this with a lightsaber? Yeah, kind of like when the High Republic, when they approved a lightsaber to slow down a Jedi. Yep.
Also did Filoni
stabbing it into a cliff. Or what colors were the sabers? Or like in The Acolyte, should this character even be alive? So a young Ki-Adi-Mundi stepped in. A young...
Okay, I wonder if Star Wars Theory is also like trashing Dave Filoni, because that would be a turnaround, because Dave Filoni is a freaking hack. I hate that guy.
We had to make his birthday 40 years earlier because he was that young. Or anything else you need to know with what has come before, like source material.
We don't have source material.
Oh, here's a good one. What have been the highs and lows of running a company built on such beloved IP? She's never going to talk about the actual elephant in the room. She's just going to ignore it, as she always does, and talk about how amazing and great it's been. The highs include realizing how many people love Star Wars. That's one way to put it. The majority of people, and certainly the people that I run into and people outside the business, they love Star Wars. They love the movies. They might love all the shows. They might love some of the shows. But when I came into this, I realized a few things. We had walked in at a moment when there hadn't been any movies for 10 years or more. But there was still the memory of the greatest series of movies in cinema history. So you're walking into something that had...
By the way, the only reason she runs into those people is because that's who she surrounds herself with. She doesn't surround herself with the real fans. Like, there's been no here's one of the indicators. There's no interaction or film with her in public at like some Target or Walmart, and a fan's like, whoa, what the freak? Hey, yo, Kathleen Kennedy, right? What'd you do with Star Wars? Why the F did you ruin Force Awakens? Why'd you put that movie out? Why'd you erase everything George Lucas created? When she talks about people outside Hollywood, it's just people she didn't work with. She surrounds herself by these retards. That's why she says that like they love the shows, or even some of the shows, not all of them. Well, yeah, it's because you only talk to one person, one type of person.
enormous expectations. Yet at the same time, you know that you've got to find new characters and you have to expand the galaxy. And you need to think about who
Was
the
already
new
expanded,
audience
you freaking
is. Wow.
cow.
So wrong. That's what I feel that I did. And that's what I feel all the people that I've worked with
didn't.
over the last
F you.
decade did. The highs include bringing in a new audience. I think we did find new characters. We continue to find new characters. And those characters continue to try and find themselves because the
they're all
directors
gay,
and writers
dude.
don't even know. So I mean, how would they? How would the actors didn't even know until the last minute? And this right here, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly why Star Wars failed under Kathleen Kennedy. So she recognizes that George Lucas created something timeless and something extremely popular and beloved. Yet at the same time, she felt that you have to find new characters and you have to expand the galaxy and you need to think about who the new audience is.
That was a bad mistake.
When George was making Star Wars, he didn't try to think of any of that. He didn't try to think of who is the new audience? Who will like this? He was just telling a story.
deleted
And when
scene.
you tell a good
Yeah.
story, the audience finds you, not the other way around. When you chase the money runs away. When you focus on passion, the money finds you. The audience finds you. The customers find you. That's what you failed to understand, and we all paid for it. The highs include bringing in a new audience.
Okay.
It's not to continue the story and the legacy that George Lucas created, but it's to find a new audience, and a new audience they did find. Someone who won't even support the very things that they supposedly love so much and stand by.
Yeah,
Like
the new audience is people who hated Star Wars. That's the new audience. People who didn't like the thing in the first place. They didn't bring an audience to love what came before. They didn't bring a new audience to that. Because you know who does that? The fans. The fans will bring the new audience to, is it their kids? Is it their friends and family? Is it somebody they meet at some comic book shop, at the grocery store? The things that nerds love to do the most is share the things we love. And that's what these studio heads, this freaking bloated cow of a woman, couldn't understand. We need to write the story and then just have it be an isolated story connected to this universe that doesn't disrespect anything, including books and novels and games, and sticks with the lore and the current canon, and the fans will do the rest. We will buy the merchandise. We will give you all the money if you just don't give us crap. And then they state it's dishonorable to sheath a saber during a fight, but in one show they have a Jedi do the very thing. Kenny hasn't gone to a convention and actually do a Q&A, you know. Yeah, so they did that whole thing to explain why they don't just turn off the lightsaber and turn it back on to stab somebody. And George Lucas had a better explanation for this. He's like, we're slowing down these lightsaber fights for the movies so that we can but in canon, they're going at a different speed. It's not so cut and dry. It's not that easy. Okay? To turn off the lightsaber in the middle of the fight and then turn it back on. It's not about breaking the saber. And also, red lightsabers, I think they were from a specific mountain. That's why they were red, and usually had the strength in their crystal to break other lightsabers by clashing the blades. That was also the dangerous part of fighting a Sith. Yeah, you tell she doesn't even know Boba Fett, Poe Dameron, Orlando. Yeah, the lightsaber thing really messed me up. Yeah, also, there was J.J. Abrams was in a panel with Kathleen Kennedy, and when they mentioned Darth Plagueis, they're like, I don't know who that is. And he's mentioned in literally Revenge of the Sith. So, yeah.
For example, which cost $250 million.
Every adventure starts in the top.
Oh my gosh, dude, another ad? F you people.
Yes.
I think we did find new characters. Yeah, you found them, but you never fleshed them out. You never told them properly, and you never made us feel an ounce of the emotion and connection that George made us feel with the characters that he wrote, he put on screen, that he directed. We continue to find new characters. I think you should stop doing that. I think all the characters are already out there that George created, and you just need to add on those and then close their book respectfully. And you didn't do that with Luke. And that's why so many people have a problem with Star Wars. So many people have a problem with you. But I guess we're all just sexist racists.
I don't believe. And you're sounding like a separatist.
The
Racist.
lows.
Yeah. Racist. Look, he's right. Here's the thing. In the EU, they didn't really close out Luke's story. But the big problem was they had to, Kathleen Kennedy decided to destroy the characters that came before to prop up the new characters. Instead of realizing that some characters have certain strengths and other characters will not. That's why the Mary Sue term exists. Rey is good at everything without even trying or training. Man. Look, Muzan, the only one that was able to find a pretty good successor was Tolkien. His son loved it. And unfortunately, those who would be a successor would probably have to be completely outside of Hollywood. Because that's what George Lucas was when he wrote Star Wars. He was outside of Hollywood. He wasn't your regular guy. He wasn't a regular guy in Hollywood. He was just a regular guy. He wasn't like the studio head. He shelled out his own money. He had a story, and that was that. And Hollywood hated him for that, man. He also had the most successful, I would say, toy company to exist, which was just Star Wars, things that came out of Lucasfilm. Because right now it's about money and what sells more to what audience. Well, if that was the case, we would have good Star Wars. Here's the thing. Right now, it put me off watching the Star Wars the other day when I saw it on, to be honest, because I said to myself, what is this? Now I just watched Phantom Menace to Clone Wars. Last Jedi bored me. Yeah, dude. Look, if it was about the money and what sells, it wouldn't be woke, because wokeness has never sold. It's also important to look at inflation. It's important to see how many tickets were sold. Okay, The Last Jedi did make $1 billion. Force Awakens, Rise of Skywalker, number-wise, all successful. Solo was the first one to lose money, and Rise of Skywalker lost money. It's probably the most expensive film to ever be made. The reason we got bad movies is because there was a time since 2013, I would believe. No, I think it's to 2014 till now, till like 2024, that everybody, these studio heads, they had the money to borrow with no repercussions, and they didn't have to pay back right away. It's kind of like what happened in 2007, 2008 with the crash. But this is overall to Hollywood, right? Like the movie theaters got a government bailout, and laws changed so that studios can actually buy movie theaters. And they didn't do that because they know that it's not going to make them money. It's going to bankrupt them. So they thought it was more important to put out their belief system. Like, think about it this way. Let's say you believe in a religion that you found out has all the proof in the world that it's completely true. Like scientifically, spiritually, whatever. If you go colonize and force people the truth, you're going to have a rebellion on your hands, because you're forcing them. You're not teaching them. You're not showing them through a means that's honest, and not taking something that they already know to love and destroying it so that you could shove what you believe to be true down their throat. That's what happened. They thought their mission was so important that they were the arbiter of truth in society, that they wanted to put wokeness, the alphabet community, all that bullcrap that we've been watching and hearing about, pronouns, all that garbage, down your freaking throat. That they were willing to erase all the good in this world. All of it in terms of fantasy. Like when Christopher Tolkien died, the reason we got the garbage rings of power that we have is because when Christopher Tolkien died, they fired 100 people of the writing staff, fired the cast that they had, rebranded the name to Rings of Power, and that's why we got the current garbage show we have. Star Wars was changed. Marvel was changed. Like all of it, man, like all the slop that we've been getting was not because of money, was because of ideology. And because these people are so loud, these studio executives don't understand what happens in the real world. So they think that whatever they're hearing on social media, which is a small group of people, because most people on social media are retarded. They have the time to spew hate and read every little thing. Like, dude, you know what a detractor is? If you go on Twitter, there's a guy that has consumed every single piece of media of the person they hate, and then they start speaking crap about them. Those are the people that the studios listen to. And they thought that was the entire world, that the entire world made a giant cultural shift, which, granted, everybody just kind of caved. Even us, we kind of caved a little bit. And then we went from tolerance to full-blown forced acceptance. And there's no more tolerance. So we went, and it's not to get into a political discussion, but that's what happened to entertainment as a whole. That's what they did. They haven't made money. Okay? Like, Disney Plus still hasn't made money. Netflix lost money with that whole cuties thing. Remember when they did a whole freaking show of pedos? A whole movie of this French freaking stinky bastard lady doing a movie of pedos, of freaking 10-year-olds twerking? It was disgusting. Warner Brothers, they're just an idiot company. They just follow the trend. They follow whatever everybody else is doing. They are retarded. Paramount went full woke for a minute there. Like, they still have their freaking issues. But yeah, like, that's what happened. But back to Kennedy's retardation.
Ooh, we're going for it. The lows are that you've got a very, very small percentage of the fan base that has enormous expectations, and basically they want to continue to see pretty much the same thing. The level of just incapable of being self-aware.
Yeah.
This is the most telling and closing chapter on her tenure at Lucasfilm, and I'm going to dismantle it. Do you guys see how she is calling us very, very small percentage of the fan base?
I would say
is it a very small percentage of the fan base that didn't watch The Acolyte? Yeah. So which small percentage are you talking about?
It does not exist.
We have enormous expectations, and basically, dumbed down, we just want to see pretty much the same thing. No, dear Kathleen, we just want to see a continuation of the stories and the characters that we love. We want to see a continuation of the characters we grew up with, the characters that we looked towards for hope and courage and strength, the characters that you bastardized, the characters that you destroyed, the lack of respect that you gave to George Lucas after you told him to his face and to the world that the only thing you care about is respecting these stories.
The main thing is to protect these characters, make sure that they still continue to live in the way that you created them.
And if you're not going to do that, then you know going in that you're going to disappoint them. It's incredible. You disappointed us because you said that there was no source material. You said that we don't have books and comics and games. Boy, were you wrong. You disappointed us when you started to call us sexist and racist, and that's not to ignore the fact that those people exist. Of course they exist. Those people exist everywhere. But when
Yeah.
you call the very, very small percentage of the fan base that has enormous expectations and basically is just dumb and wants the same old thing over and over again, you're kind of just showing your true colors. And in fact, from Bob Iger's book, the reason George had such a hard time watching The Force Awakens, and I quote, he said, they just want to do the same thing. And that's because you guys literally did the same thing.
Yeah, not only that, it's just look at the freaking numbers. Just go to any grocery store, toy store. Dude, I went to Big Red's toy shop here in Tampa. Great toy store. Local. He's been collecting toys for years. Like probably 2 decades. There was a time where his store, even in the past 5 years, like I would go in there, half of it was Star Wars. It was incredible. He's had 2 different locations, at least that from what I know. I think he had one more before. And like 2 different spots that the same store was in. It's moved a few times. I went in there right before Christmas. There was almost no Star Wars memorabilia, toys, nothing. Only in the front where they had the 80s like small action figures before like we had like the full size. There was like this big. We had those. They had those, and he told me, the owner told me, Star Wars doesn't move. Nobody likes Star Wars anymore. Even their like dedicated old dudes fan base, like 60 years old, who went to the premiere of the first Star Wars movie ever. They're not buying Star Wars. So he said, as soon as all the rest of the Star Wars sell out, we're never going to carry Star Wars again. Growing up, 3 aisles of the toy section were just Star Wars at any Target, any Walmart, even to the point of Revenge of the Sith. It was loaded, dude. Loaded. And if you're saying like, oh, people aren't buying toys as much anymore, no, they're still buying. The toy sections in many Targets are just as big, if not bigger, than it was 20 years ago. There's still a lot of people buying toys. And there just are no Star Wars toys.
Just repeated elements of the original trilogy sprinkled all throughout The Force Awakens. You added the same sort of climate of planets. You brought these evolved, beloved characters, Han Solo, Leia, and Luke, and you degraded them. You took them back to well before we even met them. Luke was disillusioned and didn't believe in himself in episode 4. That's the same place you put him in episode 5 when he should have been transcended beyond. Han Solo was a smuggler that really only cared about himself, turned into a hero, a war hero, a general, a fighter, a lover. When he was going around, just sleeping with whoever, he became devoted and fell in love with Leia. But you regressed him. You split them up. The father figure is no more. He failed. He's now back to being a deadbeat. And then you killed him off.
And let's not forget, Chewbacca just became somebody that accepted this loser's behavior.
Easy streaming
Worst
with On
best
Pro.
friend ever. Just like, yeah, man, go leave your wife. I'm not going to go back to build
trilogy treatment.
Like freaking Kashyyyk. I'm not going to go and help my people out or whatever and like have my family. I'm going to follow you, you old freaking douchebag that left your family to rot. Awesome.
I've made videos about it. It's documented, well documented. There's proof of it, of his interaction, his interview with Paul Duncan. There's literature about it. And yet you chose not to use it. And Bob Iger even said that he found it weird that George Lucas was expecting him to use the sequel trilogy treatment that he gave them, that he sold to them, that Disney purchased from him just to lock away so that nobody can ever get to it again.
Yeah,
I'm not sure there's anything you can do about that. Just tell good stories, because you can't please everybody. No, you can't. And that's true.
Okay.
All you can do.
Not completely. It's all right, moves on. I'll see you in a bit. Not completely wrong, actually. The Star Wars fandom, when it came to the EU, there was inconsistency, but I would say it pretty much pleased everybody. You can't please every single aspect. Maybe some people won't like a certain scene, won't like this. But like, for instance, every single Star Wars fan agrees that at least A New Hope and Empire are pretty freaking on point in writing and action and storytelling. They were able to please everybody. Never heard one Star Wars fan talk bad about Empire. And I'm talking about a fan, not somebody who hates on Star Wars and like doesn't care for it and just dissects it to be hateful. That's what fans are, fanatics about this stuff. You will please every fan. You will. Now, not 100% all the way through is that certain product pleasing. Meaning, like I said, a scene, an element, like part of the story, but they will be happy with the product itself.
Try to tell good stories and try to stick to the essence of... So if you're trying to stick to the essence of what George created, but you're complaining that all people want is to see pretty much the same thing, yet you go and you literally just recreate the same old crap in The Force Awakens, which is exactly what George Lucas said, then what point are you really trying to make? Because it just kind of seems like you're dilly-dallying and you don't really know what stance you have. He embedded incredible values into Star Wars and what it has to say. Okay, what are those values, Kathleen? I mean, since there's so much source material, what are those values? What of those values did you present into your movies of Star Wars, into your version of Star Wars, when you decided to blatantly go against what he wanted to do, what he wanted his story to be, and you wanted to do your own thing, which George has said many times.
Everywhere.
The ones that I sold to Disney and everything, they came up to the decision that they didn't really want to do those, so they made up their own.
George Lucas never wrote a script for 7, 8, or 9.
So it's not the ones that I originally wrote.
The whole idea of hope and fun and entertainment and what he's done over all the years, that's what I tried to preserve. Well, you failed. And I wouldn't do that any differently, and I wouldn't change anything that we've done over the years. Well, I'm happy you're stepping down, because you don't understand. I understand why some people may like certain things more than others. You mean like good storytelling, for example?
Let's get to
but that's not going to change why I decided to do certain things and why I decided to work with the people that we worked with. Okay, well, since you're on the topic, why did you decide to do that? Because you divided an entire fan base. You destroyed a legacy. And now Dave Filoni has to do his best to pick up the pieces and use Kensuke to put it back together. Hopefully, he's still on our side and he hasn't been twisted by the Dark Lord.
Dude, okay. Oh my freaking goodness, dude. Let's get through this ad.
A conflict.
There is no conflict.
I think everybody that...
Look. I love Theory. He has way too much hope. Dave is a freaking hack. He wasn't the one that twisted that was twisted by Kathleen Kennedy. He had his own bullcrap. He has his own ideas that he thinks are better than George and better than Kathleen's. He thinks Kathleen just didn't do it right. So he's going to make girl power even more correct. Because Kathleen, her problem was the execution. That's what Dave Filoni's freaking mind is. Dave Filoni is a garbage storyteller when it comes to Star Wars. He's a freaking moron. Remember, there's an interview talking, like, the whole, almost the entire layoff of Clone Wars was George Lucas, and Dave Filoni executed it. Dave Filoni didn't want to do a story about Obi-Wan and Anakin. He didn't want that. What this bastard wanted, which would have been alright, was the stories about the clones individually. Which then he did the Bad Batch, and that's a whole load of garbage in and of itself. I love Theory, but he's not the guy. I'll be right back. I'm back. Give me a second. Oh, freaking A. Hold up. Yo, Paula, 1966. You got a question. Okay. Do you think Keanu Reeves would play a great Darth Revan? I'm not sure. He's older. He's not as agile. Though I never imagined like Keanu Reeves, like his personality mixing well with Darth Revan, just because he's kind of been playing the same thing. I think a younger Keanu Reeves, yeah. But I think he could play like after Keanu, like Darth Revan is older. You know, when he comes back to the light after he gets his memory erased, and then it's kind of moves on from that side, like after wearing the mask all the time, possibly. But I don't think it's so far from what I'm thinking at this point, because I don't think we're ever gonna get a movie. Like, here's how I think. Okay, he's old. Time doesn't slow down for any of us. So by the time Lucasfilm, if they ever get their act together, which I doubt, they are never going to release an Old Republic movie. Because it would have to be 2 trilogies, 2, for Darth Revan's story. It's like, we got to remember that video games and novels, they take a long time to be palatable. We need to take the time to dissect the personality and everything. In a movie, you have to shorten everything. So everything that Darth Revan goes through, the studying, the combat, you know, it's a lot to flesh out. Maybe maybe a series would be good. But I don't think at this point Keanu Reeves would even entertain the idea. I don't think to be honest, who I think would play a good Darth Revan is the guy that's played Kylo Ren. I think he'd be an excellent Darth Revan. He's got a good voice. Adam Driver, that's his name. He's got a good voice, got a good presence about him. He has that look, and I think Adam Driver would be a great Darth Revan. That's the funny thing. The guy who played one of the worst villains ever, Kylo Ren, could play one of the best hero/villains, Darth Revan. That's who I think could play it. Let's get back to the reactions. Feel free to ask more questions. I got you.
The Star Wars space. They love Star Wars, and that was the first and foremost important. You want to have people coming into Star Wars and wanting to tell stories and wanting to make movies and wanting to create television shows that you respect and care about. Jon Favreau is completely different than Tony Gilroy.
Okay, I have my own problems with Jon Favreau. I don't think he's that great of a writer, you know. Especially when it comes to Star Wars, man. The Mandalorian, even season 1, wasn't good. Objectively, it wasn't good. You can like it all you want, but it wasn't good.
They're both incredibly talented storytellers. Is that why you gave Tony Gilroy about $800 million for his projects, yet everything else that Jon Favreau did got maybe a fraction of that? I found it thrilling to support each one of them in trying to tell the stories they wanted to tell. Well, I heard that you were making too many executive decisions with The Mandalorian, and that's why Mando Season 3 was totally different from Mando Season 1 and 2. But hey, what do I know?
Look, regardless if it was different, all of it sucks. Like, tell me how the freaking fobs work. Till this day, nobody's explained that. Nobody has freaking the slave chips like they explain on Phantom Menace where it could track everybody. But apparently you could track through space where Baby Yoda is, where like all these pucks or whatever. Like, the puck was enough to show the face. Like, you gotta find this person. This is the last thing we heard. They were on this planet. That's it. And this is also 5 years after Return of the Jedi, 6-7 years after Empire, which Like, why couldn't they use those freaking fobs to find Luke and Han Solo and all them during Empire? You know what I mean? Like, they forget the era that they're in, the timing it takes. Like, this is 5 years after. Even if somebody developed that sort of technology, the Empire wouldn't allow, like, regular bounty hunters to use it. Are you kidding me? Stupid. But, Paula, I've heard that Abeloth might be coming to Ahsoka. Oh my gosh, dude. Abeloth might be coming to Ahsoka Season 2, and Natalie Portman might be returning as Padme, and Abeloth will take her form to deceive Anakin. Look, let me ask you this. Are you excited for that? Are you excited for that bullcrap? Like, Abeloth needs to be contained. That like evil goddess creature should not be in like these main character storylines. That the EU did it great, and that's all we should get of it. We should get an understanding of why she was locked up, how she was released, and then that's it. But even then, I don't want her portrayed. I want that to be like the ultimate nerd thing where like, oh, there's this novel and it's about this creature named Abeloth, and then that's it. And Natalie Portman, I would like to see her as Padme, and that's it. I don't want her being the essence of Padme but portraying a different character. Like, I actually don't want them using any of the old actors, even for flashbacks. Go make a Clone Wars show, a live action. We have the technology to de-age everybody. Everybody's pretty much still alive that like shows their face on camera. Why not? If you want to unite the fans to a live action property, you can, I wouldn't say copy and paste all of it, but you could copy and paste Clone Wars a good amount. Okay? Take away all the light and dark gods and like keep it a mystery that Anakin becomes Darth Vader. But don't give me that. Like, you're curious in imagining if that Natalie Portman plays Abeloth, she'll look ugly, but maybe she'll be in a beautiful form like regular. It depends on what the contract states. Actors do that all the time. One of the actresses in Dune, she's like, I don't want my face covered. So they just put on pretty tattoos instead of adapting it like the books. They might do like... Have you seen Ghost Rider? When one of the guys, I forgot which character, says like, he asks the dude, he's like, what about Mephistopheles? And then he turns and it shows like all his teeth shadowed like that because Abeloth has all those teeth. They might do it like that way, like where she turns to the side real quick and you see a glimpse of what Abeloth really looks like, but then it's Natalie Portman. That's probably what we'll see. If that's true, that's what we'll see. But again, who gives a damn? It takes place in the Disney freaking Star Wars universe, which is freaking retarded and gay. We don't need it. But, you know, regardless, it'll be interesting to see. I just don't have any faith in the Ahsoka series. I think it's stupid. Yeah, love Nicolas Cage. Nick Cage, the GOAT, dude. Yeah, so that teeth thing, that's what I figured that they'll probably do with Natalie Portman. Yeah, feel free to ask more questions. I'm all for it. Reacting, answering, we good. I love Star Wars, and I hate Disney Star Wars. Like, look at this. This is Star Wars right here. The Star Wars panel. My chat just flipped out for a second. All right, let's get
things. That's what I want to do well, and that's what I like to do and want to continue to do. And hopefully that took Star Wars into the next step.
Nope.
We'll see in the long run, but it feels like I did. I feel like we expanded the universe and we stretched it thin. We brought new audiences in. You sure did. And you lost the old ones, the loyal ones, the ones that actually bought and purchased things.
Yeah,
but especially with something like Star Wars, where George just created something that became a part of everyone's childhood. And why was that, Kathy? You ask yourself this, why did it do so well? Every single filmmaker that walks in and wants to work on Star Wars, the first thing they say to me, the first thing I hear is, let me tell you about when I went to see Star Wars for the first time with my dad. If every single one of those people told you that, then wouldn't you want to continue that legacy instead of focusing on finding a new audience? Instead, you would want to focus on the audience you already have instead of alienating them by completely changing script. Back when J.J. Abrams started the third cycle of Star Wars films, I asked a lot of filmmakers how that very first film affected them. My favorite recreation came from Ridley Scott. When I interviewed him for the film, The Martian, he looked at me hard and goes, well, this is what happened. And he told this great story about being with David Putnam, and they were working on Tristan and Isolde as his next film. And took a break to see this movie everyone was talking about. Ridley found himself getting more and more pissed while he was watching it. Not because he didn't like George or his movies, but because he didn't think of it first. As he exited the theater with Putnam, he turned to the producer and said, I think I'm not going to be able to do this movie with you. I've got to go to space. That led him to Alien. You always hear how Bruce Springsteen or other musicians watched Elvis Presley or the Beatles in those early days of television and knew what they wanted to do with their lives. George did a version of that with his first trilogy. How did it change you? Whew. Wow, I didn't know this interview was going to be this crazy, bro. All right. Kathleen says, I didn't realize that about Ridley. That's fantastic. So many of us can talk about the moment that they saw Star Wars. It changed so many people in the movie business. And the way you thought about what you wanted to do because of what we were just talking about. The new tools and innovation and how we tell stories and how you create imagery. He created a world in a way that 10 years before you couldn't have done. And everyone was blown away by seeing something. So she just completely danced around the question. George did a version of that with his first trilogy. How did it change you? I guess she was talking about the technology of it. Coogler went into the genre sandbox.
Look, this lady gives me a headache, dude. Like, it's like she's a robot. She has no emotion. Like, tell me, like, I am curious to know, like, as much as I don't like Kathleen Kennedy, I want to know, like, hey, what drew you to Star Wars? Is this just a money grab? Like, were you not a fan at all? That's what I'm getting from, is like, she was never a fan. She literally saw an opportunity that, hold on, a lot of people like this thing. Let me go work for this guy. And then that's it. That's her draw. It's like, I don't get it, but apparently everybody loves this thing. Like, she was that fan. You know, she's a fan that it brought in money. That's it. She wasn't a fan of Star Wars because she never talks about what Star Wars made her feel like. Like, which scene was the best? What gravitated to her? Well, have you watched the remake of the movie The Witches, the Grand High Witch? Wait, what do you mean? What remake? Of what movie? Are you talking about Ghost Rider? The Witches, the Grand High Witch kind of looks like Abeloth. Are you talking about Acolyte? Like, Paula, what remake? Of what movie? I need to know what you're talking about. Let's get back to the vid.
Turned it completely on its ear and made it relevant to everyone as they thought about their own tribal roots and origin stories. I don't think I'd ever seen that in a movie quite like he did it. I imagine you'd give your eye teeth to have a guy. I've never heard that. You'd give your eye teeth to have a guy like that where he could make a mark in the Star Wars universe. Oh, trust me, Mike, this is big. This is a big part of what I've tried to do. Sit with the people that I would love to see step inside this space and create something that we've never seen before. But Star Wars isn't really Ryan's thing. The trickiest thing is to find a filmmaker and say, you can step into this space and you can still be you. No.
So, according to the University
ads,
of Delaware...
Like, man, YouTube's got to get their act right. Ad blocker ain't working.
Step into space and try and be as close to George as you possibly can. It's still going to be you regardless because you're not George. And you got your own way of shooting and doing things, but you still have to think along those lines. It's like you have a famous recipe and then all of a sudden you come in, oh, we want to cater to a new audience. You just completely change the recipe. It's no longer the same famous recipe. It's something totally different. Star Wars. And then you wonder why people didn't like it. Well, that was your mark.
Like, here's the thing. All these movies suck. Right? I'm talking about the Disney stuff. And they still suck even if they weren't Star Wars. That's the big problem. The biggest issue is that we've seen in Hollywood is they take something that people love. Remember, fans means fanatic. They take something that the fans love and they don't like it themselves, but they're in charge of it. And then they grab it and completely F around with it. Like, I don't like this, so I'm going to change it to something I do like, which then is completely the opposite of what that thing is. Like Graham Nolan. I saw him in a live stream. Graham Nolan was the original creator of Bane from Batman. You know, the villain Bane. And he said it best where he's like, there were comics that he was assigned to because he's a comic book artist and writer. I believe he's an artist as well and writer. Like, he's both. But but he said that he was assigned to certain comics that he didn't like. He himself was not a fan of. But his mission was to figure out why fans loved it and expand on that love for it. So therefore, this comic stayed consistent, and it was just his skills pushing everything that the fans loved forward. And a good writer knows how to do that. They could take something that they're not a fan of, but expand upon it because they understand A, B, C. They could understand, you know, beginning, middle, and end, and how to get this story moving to this end, to this route. That's what a real writer does. Regardless if they like the thing they're writing. They know how to take it to the next level in their way without implementing and changing what it was. Paula, you gotta expand on that last chat. I have no idea. Well, you have watched the remake of the movie, The Witches, the Grand High Witch, kind of looks like Abeloth. Which movie are you talking about? That's what I need to know.
Man, that was your freaking audience. By the time we were talking about Andor, he found a way in because he realized there was something important he had to say, and he could do it inside Star Wars. And that started to become very exciting for him. It's thrilling to try and find that. I've had eerily conversations with David Fincher with Vince Gilligan for TV. I have sat down with Alex Garland and others where the minute you say their name, you go, oh, that might be an interesting Star Wars. But not everybody is just to go, oh, yeah, great. I'm going to drop everything and spend the next 3 to 5 years trying to figure this out. That's the other thing to consider.
Not anymore. People would line up in droves to direct Star Wars for the rest of their lives. Take before Force Awakens. It was the number one thing talked about was Force Awakens. Who was in it? Who wasn't? They were asking every single actor, every type of actor, if they would be interested in being in Star Wars. They were asking directors. People were fighting to be a part of Star Wars Episode 7 and writing it and directing it. Like, they could have picked anybody, dude. Anybody. Because it was that popular. It was incredible. So this whole thing about 3 years that people don't want to take that time. No. It's also a job. Okay? Why do you think we have shows like Smallville went for 10 seasons? It's because these people loved it, and also they maintained a job. They were getting paid. And they had a plan. Like, you're telling me that nobody was a big enough Star Wars fan in Hollywood to be like, I'm going to go grab this opportunity and I'm going to write a series that's 8 seasons long, 20 episodes per season. I'm going to go write a movie for Star Wars and I'm going to give it my blood, sweat, and tears for it. No, you put people who had a specific ideology that, like Jar Jar Abrams, he is the franchise killer. Okay? Did it with Star Trek and did it with Star Wars, man. They're like, he destroys pretty much everything he touches. Barely writes anything good. I think Super 8, maybe, and that was it. I don't know, man. And after Rise of Skywalker, he's been gone, dude. Nothing. Crickets.
These are really complicated, difficult movies to make. Far more than I think people give them credit for. People have to set their lives aside for years. Whoa! People have to work and get paid tens of millions to create Star Wars?
Dude, this fool does
How
it
many
for
years
free.
on average? 3 to 5 from the time that you start developing, and then what's involved is concept work and creation. Yeah, it sounds like a really tough job, man. Let's get what the fans are eager to know. The progress on films and series by filmmakers who've committed to putting in that 3 to 5 years. Ryan Johnson, James Mangold, Simon Kinberg, Taika Waititi. Where are all their projects at? This dude's asking the hard-hitting questions. I wouldn't be surprised if Kathleen Kennedy or her team had him ask these questions so that they could be addressed by her one last time. I've got to tread a bit carefully here. Jim Mangold and Bo Williamson wrote an incredible...
I don't really care about what they do.
Anything's a
Taika Waititi's also a hack.
Be bold. I've always liked that because I think you have to be bold and you have to be willing to take risks with people and with ideas.
If a donation makes sense for you right now.
F you, lady. I don't care about this freaking lady. I don't even know who she is. I know she's a Democrat. Don't care what your political ideology is. Get out of my freaking face.
They fly now! They fly now!
Otherwise, you are just doing the same thing. Right now, we're in an era where companies are so risk averse, and I get it. I hear all the conversations. They've got Wall Street to please, and I get it. But I also believe that's what contributes to things disappearing, ultimately. Holy shit. It's like she's self-aware but not aware. I just think you have to take those chances. Everything I just reeled off to you is taking a bit of a chance because none of those filmmakers are just walking in trying to do same old, same old. Dude, what is, like, she thinks if you tell Star Wars the way George would have wanted it, then you're doing the same old. We're not going and remaking the films, Kathy.
Like, she did the same mold in terms of effects and then did nothing. Just wrote a crappy story. She has no idea what the freak she's talking about, man. This chick is a freaking moron. The Witches remake? The Witches. Okay, hold up. It's alright. I'm an idiot, so you could confuse me all you want, Paula. Okay, I'm gonna put The Witches remake. Oh yeah, I didn't watch that, but yeah, I saw the pictures with Anne Hathaway and stuff. I don't know why I didn't watch that. I just thought it looked wacky. It wasn't like my cup of tea. But at the same time, it came out in 2020. I was going through quite a bit. Let's see, 2020, I had my first kid. I was working on buying a home. Almost bought a home, and then the loan officer was stealing our money. And everything was increasing so much in price that we were no longer approved. And then my parents were living here in Florida. We moved out here, lived with them for like a month, and I bought a place here. And then got fired from that job because the boss lady hated me, my new boss that I got like my last month. Like every day for a month she tried to fire me, but she couldn't. It wasn't until like one of my employees got into a massive car accident and they didn't show up for work, so they didn't open the store. And I was in charge of a bunch of GNCs, and then yeah, that was her excuse to fire me the next day, which was insane. But yeah, I would say, and also every movie was like woke and bullcrap. I wasn't trying to go to the cinema to watch anything really. So that's probably the bigger reason why I didn't watch that movie, was just because like I didn't have time. It's all right. By the way, Paula, don't forget to like and subscribe. We chilling.
Gotta go in and continue the story. That's not telling the same old just because it's using the characters that we want to see more of. That's telling a new story with characters that did the grunt work, and we went through the time of learning their grunt work. Luke in episode 4, 5, 6. Okay, great. Now he's ready. Now he's a Jedi Knight. And we can see as he transcends into a Jedi Master, what's he going to be like? What's the galaxy looking like? No, we didn't get that because apparently it's the same old. So what, you have like, man.
The galaxy also felt smaller, like way smaller.
The lack of self-awareness is strong with this one. What about Rian Johnson returning after Star Wars Episode 8 and The Last Jedi grossed $1.3 billion globally? We expected him to return. The Last Jedi grossed so much because you guys left Luke Skywalker on a cliffhanger, literally after we wanted to see him for 30 to 40 years. Once he made the Netflix deal and went off doing the Knives Out films that has occupied a huge amount of his time, that's the other thing that happens here. After Sean and I started discussing Star Wars, Stranger Things kicks in, and he was completely consumed for a while by that. That's what happened with Ryan. And then I do believe he got spooked by online negativity. Oh my God. There's no self-awareness from these people.
Freaking
it's so
idiots,
weird, man. It's like she doesn't even watch what George says about these things. He's a brilliant filmmaker, and he got spooked. This is the rough part. When people come into this...
Okay, first of all, if you're that freaking sensitive, F you, dude. Like, let's say it was a masterpiece, and there's always gonna be negativity. There's gonna be, and with the freaks that are on the internet, they're gonna be like, oh, it was too masculine, it was too this. Let's say it went the other way around. It was actually well written, everything was perfect, blah 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 blah. You're gonna get spooked by those fools? It's because The Last Jedi sucked. 1.3 billion just means people went to it. Usually when it hits 2 billion, that's because people repeated the viewing. Okay? And also, it's about butts and seats. It's not about ticket sales per se. It's about butt and seats. How many tickets were sold, not the amount that the ticket was. I hate these people, man. Freaking Hollywood.
I have every filmmaker and actor say to me...
This is a long video, by the way, so bear with me. I know I like Star Wars Theory, and I know reacting to his stuff is time-consuming, but yeah, it's long.
What's going to happen? They're a little scared. They don't have to be scared if you just make it good. It's that simple. If you just respect what George created, you respect the characters, and you respect the fandom. It's so freaking simple, man. That's all. You've developed a thicker skin, no doubt. A thicker skin only goes hand in hand with being self-aware. You have to be self-aware, especially when you're in the limelight or whatever. You have to be self-aware. You can't just think, oh yeah, my shit don't stink. It does. And you got to know, okay, what can I do to be a better person going forwards? And what can I do to make a better product? Everyone has faults and everyone has pros. But at the end of the day, you got to know the difference between the two and what you can improve on, because we can all improve. Everybody can improve. You can't have been used to all the criticism when you were producing all these movies with Frank Marshall or for Steven Spielberg. What do you say to ease the apprehension of these newcomers to the Star Wars universe? Well, you don't got to worry about Dave. He's been in this game since way before you. Every time you release another movie or series, it's...
He hasn't been, actually. Kathleen Kennedy was there before Dave. She was involved with George before Dave. She knew the industry way before Dave. Like, you gotta remember, Kathleen Kennedy was part of Back to the Future. She was part of E.T. She was part of Indiana Jones. You know, and I believe she was somewhat part of the prequels. So she was there before Dave. I don't know what you're talking about, Theory. She's been involved. She's known George Lucas quite intimately, especially in the Indiana Jones stuff.
Fire in the hole. Well, yeah, just make it be good. I'm
Welcome
honest.
Back, Muzan.
Especially with the women that come into this space.
Women.
Here we go again. Even with the
Paula.
women that come into this space because they get unfairly targeted, I think everyone gets equally fairly targeted. I think if you say stupid, inflammatory things to the fan base, you will get targeted, whether you are a man or woman or an inanimate object. I don't try to sugarcoat it, and I emphasize that it's a very small group of people with loud megaphones. Fucking hell. It's always a small group of people. Dude. I truly do not believe that it's the majority of the fans. No, of course not. And I think we are also in this weird world of where bots can affect things. Bots?
If you saw the news, but Fox News is claiming...
You're blaming bots. Good Lord.
Well, if droids could think, there'd be none of us here, would there?
You're talking about fans who have megaphones, so fans who have an audience, like me, for example, and many others. Social media. And yet you're sitting at one of the most powerful seats in all of media world as the president of Lucasfilm. And you're going to talk to us about bots? Huh. At least we know that bots exist now. You have to develop tough skin. That is exactly right. That's what you have to do. You can't make it go away. Well, you kind of can if you just tell good stories, respect the fan base, and don't try and single anyone out. Pretty easy, Ta-da. Really. Even then, not everyone's going to like you. And even then, you're going to have psychopaths. I mean, that's part of being on the internet. That's part of being a public figure. But that's not the majority. Yeah, but all we can do is put our heads down.
Here's something I explained in the past of why. Here, let me go to full screen. Why I think George Lucas left. Okay, sold Star Wars, sold Lucasfilm to Disney. So he said in his own words that he couldn't risk the company anymore. He had ideas that he wanted to do, but they weren't based on profit or statistics. It was just his storytelling, his ideas. And he said that, like, especially because of, I guess, the prequels didn't do as well as he thought it was going to do. And he felt that it was underwhelming, that he kind of lost his own magic. He can't risk all the employees that he had and their jobs. So that's why he sold Disney, because he also thought Disney was going to respect it. So thinking about it this way. On the internet, people could comment, they could get on chat, they can, send in emails, whatever. But praise a video, praise a movie. People can make reviews, as we see all over YouTube, all like Kick, Twitch, people talk about the movies, right? So they're going to see all this stuff, and then the creators are going to see how much people actually care, because that video is going to come out like someone like Star Wars Theory. He makes a Star Wars movie review, and then there's going to be all these like 20,000 comments, let's say. Sometimes it gets more than that, about how great the movie was. Okay, well, because it's low effort, you just type. It's not. I'm not saying it's bad effort. It's just not as much effort as back in the day. What was George receiving? Has anybody ever written a positive letter to a studio head, to an executive, to a director, to an actor? It's very minimal. Okay? So the people who love the prequels, they weren't telling George how much they loved him, how much they enjoyed Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith. I'm talking about enjoyment. I'm not talking about objective writing. I'm talking about how much they enjoyed it. He was getting hate left and right. Videos on the news. He was getting letters written to Lucasfilm. How much those people did not like his movies, and how they ruined their mythos and childhood of what they thought the EU was going to expand on, and Anakin's backstory and whatnot, right? So imagine getting all that hate, and you feel like that's the entire fandom. When the internet, it's very clear that everybody's on here, and every part of the fandom and people who are fake fans are gonna write and expose themselves. Like, fake fans expose themselves all the time. I've saw on live stream where this guy was hating on this dude talking about Miles Morales, and this YouTuber invited him on, and he told him to open his comic book app to see which comic books he read, because he said he read all the Spider-Man comics, and then when he opened the app, it shows that he's read none of them, and he was just grandstanding because Miles Morales was black. So fake fans will be exposed. Real fans will be more vocal and more open, especially here with these platforms now, which is great. And I think George Lucas probably feels a little bit of vindication and enjoyment and happiness that people actually love the prequels and the Clone Wars, even though they have problems with it, and love the EU that he approved. And he probably regrets it at this point. He's like, man, I didn't know that there was actually fans of the prequels of Clone Wars. I just thought it was just all kids, or everybody hated this stuff. And so he didn't get any confirmation that he wrote good Star Wars, just bad movies, because he also surrounded himself with yes men. It's a problem. That was his big issue, because nobody's gonna be perfect all the way through, other than Tolkien, you know. But yeah, it's that's what's also sad about it. And I would say he had thick skin, and he lasted very long throughout it, and then just eventually, like, when all he hears is negativity, he's gonna collapse a little bit. But Rian Johnson is just a freaking British cigarette, dude. Like, freaking A. Yeah, what are you saying? It does, but at the same time, it's like, well, then step down, because you obviously don't know what the hell you're doing. And again, bring back the EU. Like, we're gonna stop. Look, Schumacher was the only one to do that, really. And then you had the Sonic director kind of like put it out like, oh shoot, we're gonna change it. But that was with the trailer. Schumacher did it with Batman, and he apologized for Batman and Robin. He's like, I had an idea, had a concept, I executed it, and it came out all wrong. It's not what I wanted to show you guys, and I'm sorry about it. And all the fans were like, okay, cool. Thanks, man. Yeah, and she freaking hated on all the fans. Yeah, but I bet it's minimal, dude. I bet it's minimal. When I say minimal, I mean versus the people who like them. Yeah, see? Here's the other thing. Like he's saying, fathers and parents that come to him to the booth, most or almost, I don't think I've ever heard any of these freaks confront YouTubers in person, like confront podcasters in person. They don't do that because they're cowards. They're not for confrontation. They don't, because when you write a text, a comment, you get to think about it, write it carefully, all that bull crap. But they're not going to do that stuff in person, because it could possibly be filmed. They're going to be proven wrong because we actually have the knowledge. It's just not going to happen, man. What do you mean you think? You're the president? Yeah. Oh my gosh, dude. How many freaking ads? Okay. He's not. He's gonna F up. Ken, let's remember, even if you're a fan of Dave, whoever this Linwin chick is, we don't know what she's about. And I guarantee you, Dave cannot split up his time. He's going to be thinking about Willow. He's going to be thinking about freaking whatever movie they got to launch. He's going to be thinking about fixing Indiana Jones. He's going to be thinking about other series. Because he has to Like, Lucasfilm hasn't turned a profit, man. He has to make this company turn a profit. He can't just focus on Star Wars. He didn't become in charge of Star Wars. He became in charge of Lucasfilm. Like, let's get our head out of our booty holes here and remember that that's what's going on. And also, he's a hack. Let's remember that too. If anything, Ahsoka's the new chosen one in Dave Filoni's book. Yeah. There you go. I doubt any of that is true. That's true. Yeah, but they don't believe it's true. They believe they're bots, or they refuse to believe it. Maybe they do see the writing on the wall, but they're like, no, we can't back down because we cannot be wrong. These people are narcissists, dude. They're freaking ridiculous. They're idiots. Yeah, not really, dude. It's about profit and percentage of that. Yeah, apparently you could kill him off, freaking idiot. He wasn't the problem. The story was. Oh, another ad, dude? How? Look. Okay, no. Look. Solo lost money because of the story. The actor was actually fine. If you look at the actor and his acting chops in isolation as Han Solo, take out the Chewie scene, he could have been. Like, there's other people that look closer to Harrison Ford. But it could have been a good story. Go to the EU. There are stories about Han Solo. Of, like, before freaking A New Hope. You could even let it up. Like, we didn't need a whole backstory. And also, why not just focus on another bounty hunter? Like, why couldn't we get, like, a Cad Bane story of, like, how he became the bounty hunter that is known as Cad Bane? Like, we don't have any backstory for Cad Bane. Why didn't we get that? Or why didn't you guys just write a brand new character? Literally, change Chewbacca, change Han Solo, and just put new characters in. And that story, like, with the same story, it would have been a better film. Writing-wise, not so good, but it would have been way better. Gosh, dude. Yeah. That's true. I'm glad I watched this video, but it was long as hell, dude. Such a nice guy, dude. Look, this is the only thing I kind of wish. Like, I also don't want her to die horrifically or anything like that. What I want to happen is for somehow, some way, somebody, if I could, who knows, maybe I will someday, buy Lucasfilm out of Disney and then just immediately erase everything and just talk about how terrible Kathleen Kennedy was as a creative and writing these stories. And I want her to be alive for all that, and then write the good stories and then execute them and show what real Star Wars is like. That would be incredible to really, and it's not to rub it in her face. It's more so to like, this is what you lost, is the magic and the enjoyment of a property. Think about, again, she could have made her own stories that were not connected to Star Wars, some other sci-fi thing. As garbage as Rebel Moon was, it is Zack Snyder's own sci-fi, which also Kathleen Kennedy rejected. That was his original Star Wars concept. So take that with what you will, but at least he created his own garbage. Yep. By the way, isn't everybody a person of color? Isn't everybody a color? I hate that term. I think it's so stupid. Good Lord, dude. Or Gundam. Just saying. Oh, hey, Theory, I love you. It's not a new era. We're not getting better Star Wars movies. Sorry, brother. That's the truth. The Force be with you, brother. But again, you're wishing quite a freaking bit. F you, lady. This is AI for freaking sure. And we'll probably watch the Nerdrotic in a bit. Holy crap, did I react to that also? Oh, that's not good. That's not good. Why didn't anybody in chat tell me? Okay. That's fine. Like, we screw up every now and then, guys. It happens. I don't have multiple monitors going, so I could check OBS and everything. We're good. And if you could hear that boring that video, that's pretty much the gist of it. Now I know I'm not gonna make a video out of this live stream and reacting to Theory, but basically, Theory always being the optimist, talking about how Dave Filoni, it's a new chapter. It's not a new chapter. We're still gonna get garbage Star Wars. We're gonna still get the gay crap that Lucasfilm is a part of, and it's just an unfortunate reality we gotta live with. It's just, it sucks, dude. I wish we got good Star Wars, and the only way to actually get good Star Wars, like I said before, you gotta erase everything. It's just not gonna happen. Muzan, I'm guessing your internet cut out because you were talking about how poopy the internet is. Paula, thank you for coming in. Love you guys. Oh man, sorry, dying a little bit. Freaking A. So, okay. Now I do want to react to Nerdrotic, one of my favorite YouTubers. He's a little more honest and goes way harder at Kathleen Kennedy than I would say Star Wars Theory. Star Wars Theory, he's like the nice guy. He's always gonna be nice. That's just his style. Okay? Like, I'm not gonna hate him for it. It's just I wish, being the biggest Star Wars channel, I wish he would kinda like go way harder than the way he's been going lately. But let's get to it. Mr. Nerdrotic. Here we go.
Fade in. This is not like a series of books like Harry Potter where you've already got a template of what the stories might be.
She said that in front of George.
Years ago, you were at a charity event wearing the Force is Female t-shirt.
The Force is Female. I didn't know it was controversial.
Oh, yeah. People were very upset.
Put a chick in it, make her gay.
Kathleen Kennedy, her point of view was there are way more Star Wars stories ahead of us than behind us.
The power of Put another gay diverse woman in it, make it my name.
I'm always like, really? We built this amazing thing and now we have to tear it down.
They're crap. Crap. Mega crap.
Nerdrotic.com.
Greetings, you over 1 million.
Sure Quarter Black Garrett is the editor. Yeah, it says right here. Man, the guy knows how to do it.
And the 40% who haven't subscribed yet, we got some breaking news. We're not going to bury the lead on this one. For the 6th year in a row, it has been reported that Kathleen Kennedy is leaving Lucasfilm. The only thing that's different this time is that it's actually happening. And after over half a decade of scoopers across all social medias stating that Kathleen Kennedy's exit was imminent, you would think, considering she's a 72-year-old executive, so it's not exactly going out on a limb.
Yeah, she's retiring. Okay, 72. She's not freaking just stepping down or getting fired. She's retiring, dude. After she's burned everything down, she's gone. She wins.
Would eventually be right, and that day has arrived. From Deadline, a shift in the force for Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy.
And also not a shift. Dave Filoni is probably worse. I know that's be like, no, nobody could be as bad as Kathleen Kennedy. Well, when somebody is as narcissistic as him, he thinks he's also better than George Lucas. I can guarantee you that.
Interview. And this is from Deadline, so yes, it's real, and the only reason I'm making a video on it. Now, some may think that this is some sort of cause for celebration when it really isn't. In truth, it's a tragedy. A man, George Lucas, gifted a woman, Kathleen Kennedy, the greatest cinematic franchise that will ever exist. And from Jump Street, she vandalized it, subverted it, and perverted it beyond all recognition. And now she's called it a job well done and pissed off.
Awesome.
And the worst thing is, she will be celebrated for it. She will receive accolades and awards. They will honor her past work as a producer on films like Poltergeist, E.T., Schindler's List, The Sixth Sense, Munich, War of the Worlds, Lincoln, the Jurassic Park franchise, the Indiana Jones franchise, the Back to the Future franchise. Combined, they total more than 11 billion.
Like, here's the thing. George Lucas handpicked her because on paper, dude, she's perfect. Like, that's the part where you can't really blame. She's perfect on paper, man. Like, look at everything she was a part of. Like, she might have just brought coffee to some of the directors, but she was a part of all of that.
Global box office grosses. And that's nothing to sneeze at. And don't you dare bring up the fact that this has a lot to do with her relationship with Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, and her husband, Frank Marshall, because that would be sexist. And they'll also bring up her work at Lucasfilm. She successfully brought back the franchise with The Force Awakens, grossing over $2 billion at the global box office. And its successors, The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, both earned over $1 billion at the global box office. And if you just left it there, you would call it a Hall of Fame career. But while passing out all those awards and accolades, the industry and the dinosaur access media will conveniently ignore the Olympus Mons-sized amount of bad decisions she was either directly involved with or signed off on, including but not limited to, and you'll have to forgive me, I'm going off the top of my head here, canceling the Star Wars Expanded Universe, apparently being unaware of the Star Wars Expanded Universe that she canceled, shutting down LucasArts, killing Han Solo in your first film, guaranteeing that you would not get a reunion of Han, Luke, and Leia, a decision that is widely considered the worst mistake in cinematic history, or herstory in this case, turning the hero of
Here's when the guys ruined my when I had the Lego store and the guys ruined it. All we needed was marketing, and what they decided to do, they decided to stop utilizing the Instagram that we had thousands of followers on, and create their own brand new Instagram without letting the followers of the old Instagram know that there's a new Instagram for our store. And it reminds me of the whole LucasArts and now Lucas Games. Like, why shut it down and then just create one again? It's to rebrand. It's to take away from what George Lucas did. Freaking insane, man.
Luke Skywalker into a sad old man and a quitter who lives on an island drinking the milk from a space manatee's titty before killing him off when he ODs on the Force. And when the fans didn't like that, Kathleen Kennedy and her ilk in Lucasfilm decided to make the fans the enemy with the help of their willing comrades in the access media. How about firing directors
the whole Your Snoke Theory sucks was towards Star Wars theory. If you guys didn't know, that was his first video. His theory on Snoke.
When they were 70% done with the Solo movie, remaking it almost completely, only for it to be the first flop in Star Wars history. Hashtag Solo lost money. Then there was Kathleen Kennedy's brilliant decision to not put any of the original trilogy characters in Galaxy's Edge because she didn't want to cater to 50-year-olds.
Kathleen Kennedy, her point of view was there are way more Star Wars stories ahead of us than behind us. Or do we want to build a Tatooine and build what all the 50-somethings remember Star Wars is? Or do we want to build something else which is going to appeal to all the upcoming generations who are going to know the new stories?
By the way, those 50-somethings have kids and grandkids. You don't think they're going to shell out? And by the way, they have the money. Like, you most likely will have more money by the time you're 50 years old than you are 20 years old. And if you got grandkids, you're going to want to use that money for your grandkids. So also a stupid theory in and of itself. Like literally, if Disney kept Star Wars Galaxy's Edge as like the original trilogy and the prequel, I would take them. I would take my kids over there, even with all the garbage stuff that Disney did. But they kept the live interaction, the theme park real. Yeah.
Easy stream.
Freaking A. More freaking ads, guys. Patience here. Okay.
Gina Carano bringing back.
By the way, they had to bring out a bunch of original characters to draw people into the park because, like Darth Vader and old stormtroopers, and then they did the whole interaction thing with Darth Maul and Darth Vader and I think Mace Windu even maybe. Because people are not going to the damn parks.
Jar Jar Abrams to direct The Rise of Skywalker, and when they released it, it did manage to unite the fandom in all the wrong ways. A film, I might add, that cost $600 million to make, which makes it the most expensive film of all time, and arguably the first billion-dollar box office flop, which may be the reason why the greatest cinematic franchise in history, Star Wars, hasn't released a movie in cinemas since. Kathleen Kennedy also hired the former personal assistant to Harvey Weinstein, Leslie Headland, gave her $230 million.
Hold up. I wonder if that's actually her office. Like, at least she's a fan of Lego. Okay. But they're all UCS sets. And they're all pretty recent, other than that Y-Wing over there. Okay, I'll give her some props. But I want to know what's going on with that Y-wing right there. The engines are backwards. Or maybe they're not. I'm just retarded.
To Harvey Weinstein, Leslie Headland gave her $230 million to make what is not only one of the worst Star Wars shows ever made, it's one of the worst shows ever made, The Acolyte. Dude. Kathleen Kennedy also oversaw what might be the most embarrassing failure for Disney and Lucasfilm, the billion-dollar Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel, which was open for a grand total of 18 months. A failure so abysmal, a young woman made a 4-hour video about its failure that garnered 15 million views and was far more profitable. Damn. She also signed off on another complete catastrophe, Star Wars Outlaws. A video game so bad, my pal Mahler made a 17-hour video on it that is currently sitting at 1 million views, and I'm certain it's far more profitable. But it wasn't just Star Wars with Kathleen Kennedy at Lucasfilm. There's Willow, a show that was so bad it was not only canceled, Disney erased it from existence, much to my friend Disbrew's despair. But let's give it up to Kathleen Kennedy because she was not only the first woman to produce a Star Wars flop, she also produced the first Indiana Jones flop with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Dysentery. Me too. Then there's all the directors she's either hired, fired, or they just left, like the previously mentioned Lord and Miller, Josh Trank, Gareth Edwards, Colin Trevorrow, and Patty Jenkins. And then there's all the canceled projects, and again, you're going to have to forgive me because I'm going off the top of my head. Obi-Wan movie, the Boba Fett movie, Rogue Squadron, the Lando D+ series, the Rangers of the New Republic D+ series. Then there was the Rian Johnson trilogy, the Dan and Dave trilogy, the Kevin Feige movie, the Taika Waititi project, the Guillermo del Toro Jabba film, the Damon Lindelof project, James Mangold's movie, and Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy's Rey movie, which was announced 3 years ago. And before Mandalorian and Grogu, and Star Wars Starfighter, which will be the first 2 Star Wars films in theaters in over half a decade. A generational run of ineptitude that was immortalized in a South Park episode. And all of this will be glossed over by the entire entertainment industry and their willing and able comrades in the access media. And this brings us to Kathleen Kennedy's exit interview in Deadline, which is a 33-minute read and, unsurprisingly, is...
Yeah, like, we just reacted to Star Wars Theory's video, and that was way too long. Yeah.
Little fluff piece that glosses over her failures or doesn't even mention them at all. Don't believe me? There's not a single mention of Willow or the Acolyte in it. And the only things worth mentioning from this circle jerk are very brief. It may shock you to learn that Kathleen Kennedy has no regrets after leaving Lucasfilm. The highs include bringing in a new audience. I think we did find new characters. We continue to find new characters, yet none of them work. And if you think she forgot about the fan base, you'd be wrong. The lows are that you've got this very, very small percentage of the fan base that has enormous expectations, and basically they want to continue to see pretty much the same thing. Oh, and she wasn't done backhanding the fans. If you have any questions where the preemptive attacks on fans come from, on things like The Acolyte and Obi-Wan, you don't need to question it anymore. I'm honest, especially with the women that come into this space because they unfairly get targeted. I don't try to sugarcoat it, and I emphasize that it's a very small group of people with loud megaphones. I truly do not believe that's the majority of fans, and I think we're also in this weird world of where bots can affect things. And no one's denying that. It happens on both sides to a certain percentage, but I'll ask you this, who has the financial incentive to bot things? Is it a fan or a multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporation trying to protect an IP?
But wait!
Riverside. Oh my gosh, dude. How many ads? And this video is only 10 minutes. By the way, I love how these edits are fantastic.
A multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporation trying to protect an IP.
But wait! There's more!
She also blames Rian Johnson leaving on the fans. What she fails to mention is those are the very same fans Rian Johnson was gaslighting. I do believe he got spooked by the online negativity. I think Rian made one of the best Star Wars movies. He's a brilliant filmmaker, and he got spooked. To be fair, KK said she had one regret, the Solo movie, where she realized fundamentally, conceptually, you cannot replace Han Solo, at least right now. Well, then maybe you shouldn't have killed him. And that's about it. And the headline for this interview should have read, "Woman who destroyed Star Wars quits. No accountability to be found."
How do you write women so well?
I think of a man
And I take away reason and accountability.
And with all of our beloved franchises seemingly dying all at the same time, the commonality is the path of their destruction was paved with ego, hubris, and a slavish adherence to the message. According to the Deadline interview, Kathleen Kennedy truly believes she was a bold decision maker. She was innovative and breaking ground with Star Wars by casting a British brunette woman over and over again. The funny thing is, you do not get to choose your legacy. Life will choose that for you. So while she continues to delude herself while riding off into the sunset with all her accolades and awards, the truth of the matter is she oversaw the destruction of the greatest cinematic franchise of all time, Star Wars, through creative mismanagement, prioritizing entitlement-driven agendas and virtue signaling over coherent storytelling, alienating fans, and turning the biggest franchise in the history of Hollywood into a symbol of its creative decline. Simply put, despite all of her prolific previous work, Kathleen Kennedy will forever be known as the woman who killed Star Wars. And taking her place are two of her accomplices, Dave Filoni and Lin-Win Brennan. Meet the new bosses, same as the old boss.
Like, look, there's nothing I can add to that. I almost felt bad reacting to it because I couldn't. I'm exhausted reacting to all this stuff, man. Take these off. There's like 3 more videos for me to react to that has to deal with Kathleen Kennedy and Star Wars and Lucasfilm. Look. I might not react to those. Who knows? Maybe I'll get the angst again. But it's just too exhausting. And I couldn't really add anything to Nerdrotic's video because it's a phenomenal video. So I even apologize for not putting too much input to it. At least, look, I was expecting Star Wars Theory to be a little more nicer in a way. I'm glad he was a little bit more hardcore to it. More than he usually is. Like, that's his level of hardcore. But I don't see how people are believing that Kathleen Kennedy is going to change, that things are going to get better. Or not Kathleen Kennedy. That Kathleen Kennedy being out is going to make things better. See, I can't even think because for 6 years, people just kept saying Kathleen Kennedy is out, and then Star Wars is making the shift back to like George Lucas is going to be involved. Like, people were just trying to suck chode so hard that they wanted things to change, and they would just believe anything that came into their own heads. It was like a woman answering her own questions when her question was insane to begin with, and she talked to nobody to answer those questions. She just kept making up stuff in her head. Like, Star Wars has no business changing. They're not going to change. Why would they change? They have unlimited money coming in from Disney. So if anything, Disney still is going to go with their woke garbage. And then they're going to be like, okay, what's already not profitable but people still make news about? It's going to be Star Wars. It's going to be Lucasfilm. So why not keep using this company for ideological purposes, and the rest ones we're going to focus on storytelling. We're going to make sure that it brings in the old fans and everything. Like, why not, man? Why not? It's late. I'm exhausted just from watching those videos. I am. Especially Star Wars Theories video. That was a long one. But it's a good video. Go watch it if you haven't watched it. I effed up at the last bit of the reaction. And man, oh man. It was... I remember when Star Wars was so freaking... Dude, I have actually... When I was in the 5th grade, I wrote my own episode 7 beginning, and it had to do with Darth Maul. Like, Darth Maul is back. And I wrote the crawl and everything on one of those notepad books. It was awesome. And I would write my own fan fiction. I would freaking draw all day Star Wars. Dude, I bought so many lightsabers. Like, I haven't turned it on in forever, but that's a Star Wars Theory lightsaber because I like Star Wars Theory. I like his sabers. There's some issues I have with them, but overall, I think now they're a good company. Like that saber has issues since the first day, but I bought it like pretty much when he opened his company, really. But yeah, guys, I don't think we should have any hope in Dave Filoni. He knows nothing of what George really wanted, and he was working with him. Like, these are people. I want you guys to really think about Kathleen Kennedy. How, like, she was with George for a long time, and for some reason she believed that she was smarter and more in tune than George was when it came to Star Wars. Dave Filoni believes the same thing. Ahsoka is because of Dave Filoni. Rebels, as much fun as the first 3 seasons were, the whole time travel thing is because of Dave Filoni. Like, man, like the bastardization of Thrawn was because of Dave Filoni. Like, they couldn't even be like, you know what, this is a beloved character, let's bring Thrawn as he was in those books to show some respect. Just make some story changes. No, he didn't do that. He just made a completely different character using Thrawn's name. Like, I really don't see how we can excuse anything for the past 10, 11 years or so, or let's say since 2012. So what's that? Like 15 years? 14? The past 14 years. I don't think we could excuse any of it. It doesn't matter. Like, with Lucasfilm, it's different than Marvel. With Star Wars, it's different than Marvel. Star Wars, like, Marvel effed around, but they have time travel. They have all this stuff. It wasn't as solidified as Star Wars. Marvel has comics, games, quite a bit of stuff. All Star Wars had was really cinema to solidify a canon. And then they had the EU. And I'd consider the games part of the EU. To fix Star Wars, you have to erase. Like, Marvel, they can erase through films everything that happened after. I think they should erase before Infinity War. Infinity War, the motivation of Thanos is a ridiculous and retarded motivation. It is insane. But, like, even if you're like, no, he wants to, like, just reverse it to make it double the resources but provide chaos, because he knows it's also going to, like, make it more evil, you know, just like in the comics where he was trying to impress Lady Death, right? We're so far from getting good Star Wars because even if you get the perfect film, it's attached to Rey. It's attached to time travel. It's attached to the Acolyte, Ahsoka, High Republic, Kenobi show, Mandalorian, all of it. It's together. There's literally nothing you can do other than erasing everything. And even then, you have to do so many movies that are like perfect. At the very least 7 out of 10 each movie and film that's objective. Like for 8 movies straight for fans to start kind of coming back. And that has to be like a 20-year plan. It's not going to be that simple. It's not going to be that easy. It's not going to be, and you're going to get hate from your peers, not from the fans. You're going to get like hate from the freaking blue-haired land whales that you see on the internet. You're going to get hate from other studio executives. You're going to get hate from Hollywood. You're going to get hate from actors, directors. You're going to get hate from J.J. Abrams, Kathleen Kennedy. All these freaking British cigarettes, man. You're going to get hate from all of them. But you won't get hate from the fans. They are going to start seeing like, hey, yo, this company's starting to take the punches and getting right back up. They're just taking the hits, boom, 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 and then we're gonna see a fight. It's gonna be an interesting fight, and we're gonna be like, oh shoot, they hitting, they're surviving these rounds. Like maybe they got a chance. Maybe this is a Rocky moment, and that's what needs to happen for Star Wars to have even a modicum of respect and a chance to come back. It's the only thing that can happen. Nothing else is really going to solidify that. Nothing else is going to help it. I don't see any way that you can write a brand new story in the Star Wars universe that's going to bring it back. Like, think about Andor. It was decently written, and it was kind of its own thing, and everybody was kind of like, oh yeah, that felt a little more like Star Wars. That felt a little more like a spin-off. But then it's even people who are fans of Andor, they were just like, but that's that. We're still gonna get Juan Solo, Rogue One, objectively bad written film. We're still gonna get all the crap that came with it. So what's the point? Why would I invest my time in this? Like, I could guarantee you, Star Wars Theory, every Star Wars fan is looking so much more forward to his Vader fan film 2 than anything Lucasfilm has to put. One of the only reasons I firmly believe Lucasfilm tried to stop his channel. I do. He's sitting at like 3.3 million, and any more he'd surpass. Like, here, give me a second. Let me look up the Star Wars channel and see how much their YouTube channel has subscribers and followers. Where the freak? It's also buried in the search, so you can't even find their channel. Star Wars channel. Okay, the Star Wars channel is sitting at 4.2 million. Star Wars Theory is sitting at 3.3 million. Okay? Go look it up YouTube yourself. I'm not going to keep transferring over the vids. But, yeah, like, duh. Like, he's just a million under. I guarantee you he would have had that million already. He's the only thing that matters when it comes to Star Wars. Like, he's the only person anybody cares about. I don't care about watching the Star Wars channel. I don't even know what kind of content they produce on YouTube, but I have no interest in hearing their opinions. Anybody that gets on there, like Stupendous Wave, all these channels are kind of like, he still gets views, but in terms of subscribers, it's not increasing as it used to. He gets more views than I think Theory does on lore videos because he kind of stuck with that. And I think he only does EU stuff now. He used to be one of my favorite YouTubers. But all the Star Wars YouTubers kind of had an era where they were only doing Disney EU lore reviews and lore expansions. Eccles Hart was one that I actually liked. He always stuck with the original stuff, and he did comparisons, which I really liked. But yeah, like, oh man, we'll see. Let's react to a few more. Let's see what else these other fools have to say. Okay, let's go back to ads. Okay, so this one. Oh my gosh. And so many AI ads, dude. This is ridiculous. I know that Jeremy is controversial, Geeks and Gamers, I guess. I like the dude. Hate me for it. I don't give a damn. But he usually is brutally honest, which I love. Let's see what this beautiful fool has to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, after years and years and years of speculation and rumors and sources and thumbnails and theories and stories about Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau taking over Lucasfilm with MAGA hats on to make it based, George Lucas secretly working with people in Hollywood to have a hostile takeover of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy being fired more times than I can count. Here we are. It's official. Kathleen Kennedy is leaving Lucasfilm. Now, we obviously heard about this a few weeks ago with Dave Filoni and Lin-Wen Brennan taking over leadership duties. And there's been a lot of talk about that. And maybe 5 years ago, I think that the idea of Dave Filoni taking this over would have gone over far better than it will now. Maybe more than 5, maybe like 7 or 8 years ago.
That's true, because at that time, it was only like me and a few others that were like, we kind of saw the writing behind the wall with Clone Wars, where it's like, dude, Dave Filoni is not the guy. Like, he does some good things, but there was some lore-breaking stuff that they did in the Clone Wars. Like, watch the Clone Wars, man. There's a lot of good stuff. Season 7 is actually a downgrade. Like, great graphics and everything, but it's a pretty big downgrade. Yeah, Dave Filoni, he had a chance back then because we were all blinded. Like, Star Wars fans were blinded by the dude.
But Lucasfilm and everyone involved in the leadership side of Lucasfilm has lost all trust from all fans in Star Wars. Now, I think that it's a very interesting time for Dave Filoni and Lin-Wen Brennan, who I'm not even overly familiar with, but I've heard she's basically another Kathleen Kennedy. I think it's a very interesting time for them to take over Lucasfilm, considering where we are.
But who gives a damn?
You have Mandalorian and Grogu set to be the first theatrical release from Lucasfilm since the disaster known as The Rise of Skywalker.
That actually is an interesting point. Why is she leaving before this movie? Is it so bad that she doesn't want to be attached to it? Because we saw in the article, like, even Star Wars Theory pointed out, like, she would say things like, "Oh, I think this movie's still down the pipeline. Like, you're the president of the company. How do you not know if these movies or these directors are still going to direct these freaking projects, man?" So, why is she leaving now? You know?
I don't know how that movie's going to do. I've talked about it many times. I have no idea what it's going to do. My gut feeling is that it probably does okay. But it could easily flop just as easily as it could be $1 billion from my perspective, because I just truly don't know.
Look, I think it's going to flop spectacularly. Here's the reason. No one's going to the movies. There's no hype behind it. They've already alienated this character like crazy with the last 2 seasons, at least the last season. Nobody cares about the Mando. Like, the products aren't doing good. The merchandising doesn't do well. And normies couldn't give a damn because there are no normies. There's only like old hardcore fans that hate on it, rightfully so, and libtards who don't have the money to support this film because they're too busy, fighting about how capitalism is bad while sucking on its teat, living with their parents, hating on their parents, and then just being a nuisance everywhere they go. They're too busy, like, typing away. So this movie, I don't know any fan of The Mandalorian that actually wants to go watch this film. Or some that don't even know about it and they were a fan of the freaking show.
If you would have brought the Mandalorian movie out after season 2, I think you're looking at $1 billion film because there was so much momentum right then. But they have done so much to alienate the fan base and just make Star Wars irrelevant. If you go back to, I believe, around The Last Jedi, Bob Iger made statements that they were going to release a Star Wars movie every single year for their foreseeable future.
And that did
Now, there has been some high points for Lucasfilm, but not many. And primarily that was seasons 1 and 2 of The Mandalorian. I know a lot of people liked Andor, but not a lot of people watched Andor. And you look at everything else they have going on, and it feels like Star Wars is on life support in many different ways.
It's not on life support. It's freaking dead. It's like showing pictures of your dead grandpa all the time. That's what they've been doing. But each picture is more worn out than the next one. And some that you don't even know if it's your freaking grandpa. It's just some dude on a picture. But you know where your grandpa's grave is. And apparently your grandpa isn't worth anything because you're not even going to visit his grave. That's what they've been doing. It's been dead. It's not on life support. It's dead.
Here we go. Kathleen Kennedy is officially leaving Lucasfilm, confirming a recent rumor from Puck News. After 14 years overseeing Star Wars under Disney, Kennedy's exit marks the end of one of the most controversial leadership tenures in modern franchise history. While industry trades are framing the transition as a long-planned succession designed to recapture the studio's stride, the reality is far less flattering and more damaging. Absolutely it is. And we knew they were going to put this spin on it. We knew that. Kennedy is not stepping aside at the height of success. She is leaving behind a franchise that has shrunk in cultural relevance, fractured its fan base, and lost its standing as a true theatrical event.
I know that Star Wars is massive, but you got to remember, she didn't just destroy Star Wars. She destroyed an entire company. It was already impressive that she ruined Star Wars from what it was, the behemoth that Star Wars was. The number one of number one was Star Wars. And she managed to not only destroy that, but everything that company was attached to, she destroyed, abolished. Like, this is the destroyer of worlds right here. This is the Antichrist of cinema. Like, that's the respect that she deserves. She is a phenomenal usurper and destructor of creativity and fantasy. Phenomenal. The king of death to cinema. And the queen of freaking being one of the worst leaders, but best in terms of the outcome of annihilation. That's what she is. She is awful for the creative mind.
From from event cinema to content mill. When Disney acquired Lucasfilm in 2012, Star Wars was poised as an untouchable brand and a cinematic cornerstone meant to dominate box office, merchandising, and pop culture conversation for generations. That promise evaporated under Kennedy's leadership. Budgets ballooned while returns steadily declined. Production chaos became routine. High-profile creative hires were announced with fanfare only to quietly vanish months and years later. The once reliable theatrical pipeline collapsed entirely, resulting in a 7-year gap between Star Wars films and an unthinkable outcome of what was once Hollywood's most dependable blockbuster machine. By the time Kennedy announced her departure, Star Wars was no longer appointment viewing. It was no longer special. It was simply another Disney-owned IP fed into the streaming churn.
Like a new dog.
Oh, freaking A, dude. And they put a fat chick in front of me? The hell, dude? Way to destroy your own commercial. Let's go back because of the interruption.
Star Wars was no longer appointment viewing. It was no longer special. It was simply another Disney-owned IP fed into the streaming churn. 1000% agreed with that.
Here's something that is you guys might not have thought of, and I do think it was important for Star Wars to die. I do. We had it good, and I think it's important to realize that nothing is too perfect to not be ruined, and I think it's going to create a lot of people who are way more creative, and they're going to create their own things. I've seen some people do their own comic companies. There's people who are trying to open their own studio companies and writing stories. I think we're going to get more novels that are inspired from all this destruction. And I think it's going to make people ambitious. I do believe it's something that needs to be saved. And I think that we should try to save the stuff that we love from these freaks and studio execs and all that, because everything else we create will eventually be corrupted as well. And we need to do our best to do that, to like save this stuff. I don't know what's the perfect formula, but you know, creating YouTube videos, I think right now is a pretty good start.
The cost of alienating an audience, perhaps the most enduring damage of the Kennedy era, is the collapse of fan trust. Instead of rebuilding goodwill after divisive releases, Lucasfilm repeatedly doubled down on creative decisions that fractured the audience further. Legitimate criticism was often dismissed as bad faith. Fans who didn't respond to the new direction were treated as obstacles rather than stakeholders. The result was predictable: declining enthusiasm, muted excitement for new projects, and a brand that struggled to generate momentum even when new content arrived. Star Wars didn't just lose fans, it lost cultural gravity. A leadership that signals internal alarm. Kennedy will be replaced by dual leadership structure, pairing Dave Filoni as president and chief creative content or chief officer, along with Lin-Wen Brennan, who will oversee the business side of the studio. The pairing itself is telling. Disney clearly...
Look, if Dave Filoni is the creative side and Lin-Wen Brennan is the business side, again, his focus is split completely. He can't do Indiana Jones, and like, let's say he was the perfect guy for Star Wars. Like, I talk about this all the time. You could be like the perfect mom if you're a stay-at-home mom, and you'll be a really good mom if you go out and work as well. But you won't be the best mom possible for your kids if you're not a stay-at-home mom. That's just the reality of it. When your time is split, you can't be perfect here and perfect here. I'm talking about like present and all that stuff. You're still going to make mistakes, whatever. And even that, you're still going to make mistakes. So Dave Filoni, he's going to have to focus on Indiana Jones. He's going to have to focus on Star Wars. He's going to have to focus on possibly some of the other projects they ruined, like Willow. And new stuff as well, so that this company grows. Because if she handles the business side, she's focusing on accountants and numbers, marketing, that kind of stuff. So I could only imagine if he's working on the creative side, and he's not the lore master. He's not just working on Star Wars. He's not the head of the Star Wars part of the Lucasfilm. Like, this is Lucasfilm. He's not in charge of Star Wars. They're not the CEO, the presidents of Star Wars. They're the presidents of Lucasfilm. Remember that.
The need to install a financial counterweight after years of runaway budgets, missed targets, and expensive underperformers. Brennan's background in operations and balance sheets is not a coincidence. That's a good point for sure, because Kennedy has done such a bad job of keeping up with the budgets and the production side. So that's actually a good point, that they needed to put someone in there that can handle this. However, from what I understand, she's much in the same line with Kennedy in terms of the identity politics and all that garbage. Filoni's track record raises serious questions. While Filoni has long been viewed as a guardian of Star Wars lore, his recent record offers little reason. As the essential creative force behind multiple Disney Plus series, Filoni oversaw projects that failed to unite the fan base, including The Acolyte, which was canceled after one season, and Ahsoka, a show that leaned heavily on niche familiarity, barely said that word, while struggling to connect with audiences. Rather than course correcting, that's exactly right. Rather than course correcting, they basically just did more of the same. So this was Dave Filoni at the head of creative, which is the same job that he's going to be doing now. He's just not going to have one more person ahead of him, which isn't going to step in anyway. Dave Filoni was at the forefront of The Acolyte. That's all you need to know. No other argument matters. It doesn't matter how much you liked what he did with things. And listen, I've said it before, I think he gets too much credit for the Clone Wars. And I think he gets too much hate because it was George Lucas's baby. And Filoni gets way too much credit in both directions for that. George Lucas was integral in the Clone Wars, and Dave Filoni gets way too much praise and way too much hate for that.
I don't think he gets enough hate for it. George is like, when you have good ideas, you also have bad ideas. Okay? Here's the thing. George puts out an idea, and he used to know exactly who to hire to counter his ideas, to like make him think so they could bring on new ideas. Like he literally almost got into an actual physical fight on the set of Return of the Jedi because they were like, the dude, I forgot his name, but he was like, it's a bad idea to make Luke put on Vader's helmet. The symbolism doesn't work the way you think it's going to work. We could do the same thing by doing this, this, and this. Okay? Like the whole prequel trilogy, all he had were yes men. Every freaking fart that came out of his booty hole was sunshine and rainbows. And Dave Filoni was kind of like that with George. Like, Dave Filoni didn't even share the fact to George, like right off the bat, that he wanted to do clones only. George was like, this is Clone Wars, this is what I'm hiring you to do. And he's like, oh, okay. But he was expecting to do, he only voiced it during the interview. And I think even like he said that he voiced it early on, but it was only after like a few episodes already. And he knew what George wanted to do. And so if George approved something, yeah, that's on him. If George did something, but he also didn't speak up about it, that's also on him. Because if you fight with George enough and actually explain to him, just like a regular human being, you explain to them why something is good or isn't good to do, I guarantee you, just like freaking episode 4, 5, and 6, he would have listened and been like, all right, as long as we get this specific message across and do it well, we'll try it your way. Ta-da! So I do think he deserves the hate that he got for Clone Wars.
Is Rebels. Dave Filoni is
Rebels.
The Acolyte. That's Dave Filoni. Star Wars isn't fixed. It's just handed off. Kennedy's departure will be celebrated by many fans who have spent years waiting for accountability at the top of Lucasfilm. But leadership changes alone don't solve structural problems. The franchise still faces a fractured audience, diminished theatrical relevance, escalating production costs, creative leadership that is deeply tied to the same era fans rejected. In other words, Star Wars is not being rebuilt, it's being rearranged. This is very well written by Marvin over on geeksandgamers.com. Big shout out to him for putting this together. And ultimately, my thoughts on this are, it's not going to be any different under Dave Filoni and Lin-Win Brennan. It's more of the same. Kennedy will be celebrated. She will be treated like a Hollywood legend, and they will sail her off into the sunset, but she's still probably going to be involved, more involved than they allowed George Lucas to be after he sold it.
That's something I didn't think about. Yeah, they might involve her like crazy. Because now Star Wars is hers. There is no more George Lucas Star Wars, man. It's hers. And I will be right back. I'm back. Don't worry, ladies. We're gonna get through this. Let's get back to it.
So I think that anybody that's putting any type of excitement behind this is going to be very misguided.
Or
look
retarded.
At Dave Filoni's track record in the last, several years, and that washes away any goodwill that he may have earned in people's eyes, even though I feel that goodwill was earned under false pretenses of something he was not as responsible for as people like to give him credit, which was the Clone Wars. Anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Are you excited as Star Wars saved everyone? I don't think so, but let me know. Have a great day, and we will talk to you later.
This fool needs to do more car videos. And I'll teach you English, brother. I'll teach you English. How to read. It's all good. But yeah, he brought up some good points. This is now Kathleen Kennedy Star Wars. It's very much possible that she is going to be involved. Like, this is how you make something super gay. This is how you make something retarded. And then that's what we're going to get. But I think Dave Filoni has got that in the bag. He's going to make things gay and retarded. Even worse than what we've known before. So you could trust in him to do that kind of bullcrap. I think we good on that. Hell yeah. Let's get to Ryan Kennel at the RK Outpost. Let's react to his video. Got 2 more videos to go. Ads. I'm getting I'm getting tired. Just because I know Star Wars is not going to be saved. I still want to talk about good Star Wars, man. Like, I would love if the original Battlefront had a good server and then we were playing that. It would be awesome. Let's get to Ryan Kennel.
When a story came out a week and a half ago that finally Kathleen Kennedy was ready to step down after more than a decade of destroying Disney Star Wars as president of Lucasfilm, a lot of people are a little bit hesitant to believe it because, yeah, we've heard this song and dance before. The difference was the people who were pushing that song and dance, it was all about Kathleen Kennedy being fired, that she was going to get fired and there's a civil war and all that stuff, which was never the case. It was always lies. I've spent years calling out those lies here on this channel. Sometimes people weren't very happy about me calling out those lies. But the difference is it was an actual report this time. The same report from Matt Bolani, former Hollywood Reporter editor, who said that early last year, within the next calendar year, she would be stepping down. And now we have the confirmation. This broke, 11 minutes ago. Star Wars shakeup. Kathleen Kennedy steps down as George Lucas protege Dave Filoni, exec Lin-Manuel Brennan take over at Lucasfilm. Now, this is just the official confirmation of the story that we basically talked about. What I said when we talked about this story a week and a half ago was pretty much the same things that I'm going to say now, that Kathleen Kennedy was never going to be fired. She would step down whenever she was ready. She is in her 70s at this point. She's an old woman. It was going to happen eventually. But also I said that this is basically going to still be the status quo for Disney Star Wars. You know who's been the chief creative officer for Lucasfilm?
Dave Filoni.
The entire time for the past 5 years, it's been Dave Filoni.
Yeah, they just forgot to announce that conveniently, by the way. And then they did announce it very hush-hush like, but YouTubers already pointed it out. And it was one of the reasons why people are like, oh, Kathleen Kennedy's out. No, he's had this title for a while.
These projects have come out, whether it's Mandalorian, whether it's Ahsoka, whether it's The Acolyte, whether it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. Do you know who the chief creative officer was and the person providing input to all those people, the person checking this or Xing off that?
Yeah,
it was Dave Filoni, and it has been Dave Filoni. The stuff you've been seeing coming out of Lucasfilm is all got Dave Filoni's handprints all over it. Dave Filoni was part of planning the sequel trilogy. I went over that in great detail. This is a breaking news video, so I will include a link to my full description of why nothing will really change with Dave Filoni and all of his problems. I'll link that in the pinned comment below in this video. But now it finally is official. After 14 years guiding Star Wars into the modern era through all its ups and downs, Kathleen Kennedy is stepping down as the president of Lucasfilm. Her departure, which is effective this week, has long been expected, but still marks a seismic shift for one of the biggest brands in Hollywood. Kennedy already spent decades producing movies such as Indiana Jones and E.T., where she joined Lucasfilm in 2012, taking on the role of co-chair along Star Wars creator George Lucas. She was elevated as sole head of the company just a few months later after Disney paid $4 billion for the brand and Lucas exited. Kennedy is not totally departing a galaxy far, far away immediately. As part of the exit, she'll continue on as a producer on the next two Star Wars movies, Mandalorian and Grogu and Starfighter.
So
she'll also pursue other projects.
She's still producing Mandalorian and Grogu, and then what's the next one?
Side of Lucasfilm as an independent producer. Now, of course...
so she's still going to help produce some of the stuff, Star Wars Starfighter in 2027, that for some reason is going to release. Yeah, she's still somewhat involved.
When you do, you look at what Kathleen Kennedy has said, even last year when she sat down, she said, I'm never going away. Even if I stop being president, I still want to produce Star Wars movies. She probably will continue to produce in some capacity. In her wake, Executive Vice President, Chief Creative Officer Dave Filoni has been promoted to oversee the creative direction of the company as President and Chief Creative Officer. Lucasfilm, President and GM of Lucasfilm Business, Lynwyn Brennan, will handle the business side. She has basically been handling the business side for a while, and Dave Filoni has been Chief Creative Officer for a long time. And now they both get to be co-presidents. Now that Kathleen Kennedy has stepped down. A lot of people question whether this report was the real report when it was actually happening, and it felt much more like it would. It wasn't just fucking dumbass Scooper saying it. Wasn't people just trying to grift off of fucking copium or giving people hope with fake Civil War bullshit. It was like an actual respectable person, Matt Bellani, who isn't right all the time, but has certainly been right a lot. And look, he called it last year. He said within the next year, it's going to happen. And Kathleen Kennedy was very defensive.
Also, be fair, John Campea did say that he, in the beginning, I hate John Campea. I think he's a freaking two-timing dillhole. He also said that like the end of December 2025, beginning of 2026, that Kathleen Kennedy was going to be out as president. He did say that. But then again, so did everybody else for the past 6 years, saying every year she's going to be out. So I guess everybody gets credit
about it, but basically confirmed in that interview that she was looking for people to replace her. And ultimately, you get more of the same. Dave Filoni and Kathleen Kennedy have been in lockstep about Star Wars all the way. And now Dave Filoni, the creative genius behind Ahsoka, the creative genius who in part with Jon Favreau has delivered Mandalorian, which gave us a mid-season 1 and 2 really bad seasons after that. Of course, Book of Boba Fett happened under his watch. Yep. Obi-Wan Kenobi happened under his watch. The Acolyte happened under his watch. Him and Leslie Headland, good buddies. He loves what they were able to do with the Acolyte. That's Dave Filoni. Can't wait to see what the future holds for Lucasfilm. And guess what? The future is still bleak because Dave Filoni is just as big of a problem, if not more, than Kathleen Kennedy ever has been at Lucasfilm. What do you guys think about this? It's finally done. The Kathleen Kennedy saga. Is she...
Okay, I'm good on watching the John Campea bullcrap. Like, I don't even care what his opinion is. Like, I don't even want to react to any videos anymore. Like, I am exhausted with the whole situation. I wanted to come on here because I was so freaking pissed. I was so tired of hearing and seeing so many videos recommended to me, like Kathleen Kennedy, like Star Wars is saved. It ain't saved, man. It ain't gonna be saved. Like, the only time you would ever get maybe an inkling of a possibility that Star Wars can be saved is if Disney sold it, and Disney ain't selling. They ain't selling it, man. Because part of it would be admitting defeat. Now, if they sold it to obtain Warner Brothers, that probably would have been a smart move. If they sold that, maybe sold Fox and kept elements of Fox, like all the contracts that had to do with Fox Marvel. That would have been a smart move. But, dude, they ain't doing that, man. They ain't doing it. So that's all I wanted to talk about. I think I'm going to end the stream there. I'll probably hop on tomorrow and we'll talk more. Probably get on some Master Duel. Who knows? But, man, yeah, Star Wars ain't safe, bro. It can't. They can't do anything with it. Like, it just is what it is. All right? Like, it's sad. I know you got, like, there's a lot of you that wanted to have some hope, but as long as it's under Disney, because now you got to fight Lucasfilm and their habits. Now you got to fight Disney and their habits. You got to fight it all, man. Their money's cut. Like, they don't have money. The company has no money. Lucasfilm just drains money. Like, that's the reality. That's the reality of this company. Because you got to start seeing it as a company. You got to stop seeing it as just like Star Wars and fantasy and films. Like, it's a company that provide products, and these products are not something anybody wants. They provide products that, nobody needs. Nobody cares about. And they've been doing that for a long time, and they were able to survive. Like, think about if they were doing all this and Disney wasn't a part of it, they'd probably be hitting bankruptcy right now and being sold scraps to every single company. There's one is buying Indiana Jones, the other one's buying Star Wars, the other one's buying Willow, the other one's buying Red Tails, whatever Lucasfilm has. I don't know why I'm blanking. I could only think of Indiana Jones and Star Wars pretty much, but they would be selling scraps, man. If Disney never bought this company, that's what would be happening. They have made zero money. They have spent so much, though. Like, other companies laugh at them. Like, it's multiple times have I heard that Marvel laughs at Lucasfilm. Like, people use Lucasfilm as a comparison, who not to be. Lucasfilm is the example of what not to do. So that's just reality, man. And then it sucks because I love Star Wars. It shaped a lot of my childhood. Like, pretty much all of it, It was my number one thing. But yeah, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe, where we keep it real here. Man, it's our thing to swallow. And we've been swallowing this pill for a long time. But yeah, like, there's just a reminder, as long as Disney's name is attached, there's nothing will change. All right, guys, I am out. Don't forget to like and subscribe, douchebags.